was once again dejected when it became green within seconds. And in this week's op-ed pages, a high school guidance counselor laments the fact that no one in his entire damn school has been molested. In other news, a bedbug feels bad for an area man, but a bug's gotta eat. A development exec wants to see what, where, and how that would look, live, and play out. And a man at the gym is just watching TV. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Welcome to the program. As always, you're invited. If you want to join us on the radio, you can do that. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Conan.
You can bring up whatever you want. Both Conan and I tonight, we still want to talk about what's been happening in Canada. Because it ain't over.
It ain't over, and it's come to exactly what I said it would 2 weeks ago.
What did you say?
They weren't going to get anywhere.
Meaning the protesters.
Because their peaceful activism isn't going to change Trudeau's mind ever, and the police chief and the health minister and all these yahoos who are basically stomping them down. The boot on their heads, on their necks.
Conan, I think we can say everybody knew Trudeau wasn't going to step down, right? But they did. I mean, during the period of the 3 weeks, all of the provinces, at least as far as I can tell, even Quebec announced rolling back of the vaccine passports.
They were already doing that. All over the world, they were coming back. The left who support this, who support the lockdowns and the vaccine and the masks more than anyone else, they were already turning tail and backing off because it's an election season, an election year.
And they can ramp it back up anytime they want to.
In fact, if anything, the fact that the honking took place while everyone was backing off just, I think, made it worse. Well, I think Trudeau would have already backed off a little bit. But when these guys came out and made a fool of him, he had to hunker down and he had to make a point. Because if he had admitted defeat, that he would take that to the grave with him.
The thing is, Conan, I don't think that, even though your point is that countries around the world were backing off, Canada wasn't until the trucker protests, until the Freedom Convoy.
I think that they would have backed off without the honking.
Maybe they would have. We don't get the benefit of having A world versus B world to compare.
Well, actually, we do have an A versus B. Two different realities are at war with each other right now.
Well, we're going to get into that. That's something you want to talk about here tonight. But I wanted to give an update because, like I said, we've been following this closely over the last few weeks. That this has been going on. It's been an amazing event. An amazing protest that, despite the fact that it did not bring the power structure to its knees, I don't think anybody realistically who's been familiar with protests believed that was going to happen. I think
it's probably been one of the most effective protests in my lifetime. Now, I understand back in the 70s, the last oil crisis. I think that there were trucker revolts here in this country before I was born.
When you say effective, what do you mean by that? Effective how?
Millions and millions of dollars lost of revenue of huge companies who weren't able to get their vehicles, especially the trucking industry, the vehicle industry, not able to deliver their arsenal of vehicles. Right there, there's a big problem.
It was effective also,
and also making government look stupid.
Yes,
and calling them out for the tyrants that they all are, not just Trudeau, all of these yahoos.
Yeah, it brought people together in a way that had never happened in Canada. It was a level of protest that had never transpired there. There was a guy, Dan Dix from Press for Truth, who was around for the G20 protests, which were apparently pretty big in Canada. He said this topped that easily. So you got the benefit of the networking. You got the benefit of reinforcing the people who believe in freedom, giving them something to believe in. And so there's a lot, I think, that this protest did for the freedom movement as well. Plus, it was this sort of shining example to the rest of the world. There were a lot of copycat protests that happened in Europe and in other places.
And we might be getting our own.
And there might be one in the United States. Some say as soon as tomorrow, starting, they're calling it the People's Convoy. Yep. Now,
just in time for the State of the Union on the 1st?
No, well, that's what some people were saying originally, but now they're saying they're not going to arrive till the 5th. So it's going to be like a 10-day transport across the United States.
If they're able to even get in to D.C., there might be there's already a police presence. There might also be military presence.
Yeah, word yesterday was that they're already telling police officers they cannot have any time off as of right now until further notice, basically.
Like they're not already getting enough overtime this whole last 2 years.
On the other hand, there, of course, would be the conspiracy theories that maybe this was indeed done to increase the crackdown, that this is an excuse to crack down, that the World Economic Forum wants to see countries like Canada and the United States and all their little member countries in a total police state. And this give them the excuse to do that.
And take control of your bank account.
There's that too, yeah.
This is a perfect opportunity for martial law. What is it called? The Emergency Act, or
Emergencies Act, which, by the way, was upheld. So there was a chance for the House of Commons
to vote it down,
to vote this thing down, to say, Trudeau, you've gone too far. This is crazy. This is completely uncalled for. The Emergencies Act, by the way, and I don't know if I had the article that I was reading last night, but there was a piece that I was reading that says the Emergencies Act can only be brought into play under its own rules with like crazy violence going on.
And that's why everyone and their sister's brother, mainstream media, I'm talking about you, are talking about how these are violent activists.
Which they weren't.
They had them out there with their saunas and their bouncy castles Kids. and their disco parties. Yeah, no violence was taking place at all. Stop saying it. You can't make it happen.
Yeah,
but they do, and that's how he got this passed.
The motion to confirm the declaration of emergency powers passed 185 to 151, basically along party lines in Canada. Now, there's more than two parties in Canada because they've got a parliamentary system, and so it's a little different up there, but. Yeah, overwhelming support, basically, to continue the state of emergency, which is basically martial law, without using the military as of this point, but to a total police state is what they rolled out. Now, is that the same thing that's going to happen here in the United States? Because remember, after January 6th, there was the National Guard. Thousands of National Guard members were brought into Washington, D.C., remember, for the inauguration, and January 6th was used as the excuse for that. And what did they do?
We're still talking about is what they did.
Well, there's that, but they also locked down the streets. They had checkpoints everywhere. They had these like barriers that they put up. I remember images from that where barriers were erected in the streets to where streets that were previously two-way were modified into a one-way street, and you could only one row of cars could pass through these barriers. So there was just no way to go a second direction down the street. They had choked off all of the streets, and of course they had military members or National Guard members, just like in Ottawa, where they have police literally everywhere. There's 100 checkpoints in the so-called red zone in the city of Ottawa.
Yep.
So you cannot walk more than 3 to 5 minutes on foot before you encounter more cops asking you who you are.
Asking for your papers, please.
Yeah, and I've seen video of this. That is exactly what is going on in the city of Ottawa now with the claim that, it's an emergency, so this is just going to keep going.
We'll see. We're a different type. We Americans are a different type.
What, do you think Americans aren't going to just put up with this in the cities?
Well, we're going to talk about that in this article I'm talking about.
Yeah, because
the cities versus the actual middle class, working class people out there. The Canadians they complain a lot, and the fact that it is as bad as it is in Canada versus here is a little bit different. Is one of the reasons why we haven't had our own convoy first. And this took place in Australia.
It's worse in Canada, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, but the fact that it came to this, that people actually got off their duffs and actually went out and did this, it speaks volumes to me. Because they're just a complaining lot. They're the Queens. It's a Queens country. They're not. They're a whole different blood. We typically it doesn't come to that here in the States because, well, first of all, we weren't locked down. Our truckers weren't locked down like a lot of the cities are in this country.
Yeah.
So it didn't hurt as much as, say, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. So it's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah, there aren't as many of the vaccine mandates or the vaccine passports in the United States. There's some big cities that have them, But New York City and New Orleans and Chicago, they have them. San Francisco, but the bulk of the country doesn't. But nonetheless, there may very well be one starting up tomorrow. But one of the things I wanted to focus on, until we get to where you wanted to come to, Conan, tonight, which is these different types of realities for people, which I want to get into that. First, the reality of what's happening to Tamara Litch, one of the organizers, one of the more noteworthy, the more visible organizers. She was arrested on Thursday. Her bail hearing was this morning, and she has been denied bail. We'll give you the details coming up.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
So you're just not a fan of the gays, then?
Well, I would call it a perversion. I think it's one step towards bestiality.
I think Rich was locked up with a guy who was actually having sex with his dog.
That's right, the dog effer.
Yeah, well, I mean, dogs are property, and I have sex with property all the time, right? So like I want to get your opinion on this, right? So if homosexuality is one step towards bestiality, and then I mean where does it stop? We're just I frequently have sex with a rubber vagina, right, that I bought on eBay, and I wonder if you think that is also like bad.
Where's that on the spectrum?
I would call that a perversion too, as well.
Okay, so I'm going to go to hell then.
So,
I wouldn't go that far.
Am I responsible for the degradation of human society in America, sir?
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
there are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Talk Live. The number is 603-283-6160. You can join us here, and you can bring up whatever is on your mind. We're talking right now about the fallout after the Ottawa Freedom Convoy that went on for an epic 3 weeks until the police state formed itself. They took their sweet time doing it, but boy, did they come down hard on the convoy, making
I don't think they thought that it would turn into what it did.
No,
I don't think they had any clue. Like I said, this level of protest, I don't think has been seen, not in my lifetime. Maybe Occupy. Wall Street, but that was our protest. I'm talking Canada.
Yeah, no, Canada's never seen anything like this. And so it was pretty epic. We've been paying close attention to it and still continue to watch what's going on there because it's not over. The protesters themselves have said they're not done. The police crushing them in Ottawa as they did violently with over 190 arrests, including the organizers. We're going to talk about one of them here being denied bail. But the protesters said this isn't over. We're going to keep this thing going. We may show up in different cities. You don't know what we're going to do next, but they'll figure something out.
Yeah. Well, how many truckers? 100 or they're not necessarily all truckers, but I mean just that.
Many were supporters.
200 truckers taken off the roads.
Hard to say. Well, they may still be coming after the truckers later because the threats from the police in the city of Ottawa were if you were involved in this protest.
The chief of police.
And they were taking down license plates, so they know, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you were involved in this protest, we're coming after you later.
This one Yahoo who took over was asked specifically, do you intend to go after these individuals after the fact? And he's like, absolutely.
Yes.
We're gonna use every a little bit of energy that we have to make a point.
And of course, when they do that, it's a smart tactic on their part because when they go to a guy's house, there's no one around.
That's how they do it.
Who's going
This
to
is how
see.
they do it.
There's not going to be a bunch of protesters nearby that are going to hop to it with video cameras and catch the arrest on video. They're not going to know where he's being taken because they're not going to be there to see it happen. Only his family is going to be there to witness it. We'll be lucky if we even hear. I mean, obviously, we're not intimately connected with the protest movement there, but if we even hear about it when it starts to go down, I think we'll be lucky.
Yeah, if you say they go to their house, I don't know. Some of these guys are losing their livelihoods. They got this one of these mayors who's talking about the confiscated trucks. He's talking about selling them.
Wow. And these guys are owner-operators.
So these poor truckers might be living under a bridge in the next 2 years. I mean, how are they going to survive this?
Right, and they've also there's been speculation from the government gang that they may take their licenses, right? Like their CDLs.
Oh yeah, they were talking about that like a week and a half ago.
Right. Now I don't know,
and not just licensures, but also denying them insurance. Going to the insurance companies and saying you need to deny these truckers. They're terrorists. Domestic terrorists. You can't insure these guys. And I don't know that a trucker is going to be able to do his job
without insurance.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could, but I mean, it's dangerous.
Well, why would someone hire you if you don't have insurance?
Exactly.
You got to insure the load, I imagine, at the very least. So the update here that I wanted to make sure that we give out is about the organizer, one of the organizers, one of the key fundraisers, Tamara Litch. She was, when you looked at the GoFundMe, as far as who, because GoFundMe will tell you who the people are that are behind the fundraiser. She was one of two names. It was her and a guy named BJ Dichter. Now, from what I understand, BJ has not yet been arrested. However, he claims that his finances have been frozen. So credit cards, bank accounts, that sort of thing has been frozen. I've not yet seen any reports of his arrest. Tamara was arrested on the streets of Ottawa back on Thursday last week. So right before the crackdown came.
Right.
Because the crackdown started on Friday and then continued on Saturday. By Sunday, they had towed all of the trucks out of there, and they had moved all of the protesters out of the so-called red zone.
Yeah, these tow truck drivers with their vehicles all taped up so you couldn't see their organization and
balaclavas
masks
on. Yeah,
what a bunch of cowards, man! What a bunch of absolute cowards, and you cops too.
Embarrassing.
Absolutely horrific morality or lack of.
So here's the update. Tamara Litch, according to the CBC, which is the government's own propaganda arm there in Canada.
Ministry of Truth.
A major organizer of the so-called Freedom Convoy. They always love putting so-called in front of that.
yeah. That's yes, absolutely. They'll chuckle about it, and then they always refer to the truckers or the honkening as the so-called activists or so-called protest. What does that even mean? I know what it means. It's
debase.
It's rhetorical
the concept. Yeah. I mean, I use it regularly when I talk about so-called authorities and so-called. So, I mean, we use it that way.
Yeah, but that's true.
Yeah.
These are not so-called activists. They are, in fact, 100% activists.
And it really was the Freedom Convoy.
Yes. So, I mean, what is so-called about it?
She was denied bail this morning in Ottawa. The Alberta woman behind the now halted GoFundMe campaign that raised over $10 million in Canadian dollars to support the protest in Ottawa was arrested and charged Thursday with counseling to commit mischief. Now, again, I'm not real sure what that means. I suspect that's the equivalent of a conspiracy charge. Like, you've conspired with another person. You've counseled them.
Right.
Before her arrest, she told journalists she wasn't concerned about being arrested, didn't think the protest was illegal, and also said her bank account's been frozen. On Tuesday, the judge said she was not convinced that Litch would go home, stay there, and stop her alleged counseling. So that was what the other guy had agreed to. So there was two people who were the so-called organizers that were arrested.
So-called.
I'm calling them so-called organizers because
I'm sorry. In this case, absolutely, because we don't know that these are actual leaders or
I could tell you,
ringleaders.
Tamara Litch was definitely one of the go-to girls as far as commentary from the media, as far as she was the woman, one of the two people behind the fundraiser. So in that way, she was a quote-unquote organizer.
Right.
But I hesitate to call anyone an organizer of what is ostensibly a decentralized movement. But that said, her name was fairly prominent. And the other guy whose name I didn't recognize, I think his name was Brown, Chris Brown or something like that. I apologize if I'm getting the name wrong. I don't have it in front of me. But he was released on Friday on extreme bail conditions of home confinement. And so he had to go back to Saskatoon, where he lives, on home confinement. He is not allowed to speak in favor of these protests ever again, or at the very least until his trial. That is part of his bail conditions in this case. In this case, they're saying the judge, does not believe Tamara would be able to agree to those bail, or even if she agreed to them, that she wouldn't follow them. She would not go home. She would not stay at her home and stop her alleged counseling. The Ontario Superior Court Justice Julie Bourgeois said, quote, "This community has already been impacted enough by some of the criminal activity and blockades you took part in and even led. You have had plenty of opportunity to remove yourself and even others from this criminal activity, but obstinately chose not to and persistently counseled others not to either. In Canada, every citizen can certainly disagree with and protest against government decisions, but it needs to be done in a democratic fashion, in abidance with the laws that have been established democratically," the judge said, in denying
So
her
that
bail.
means no change for you. It's already set up. We got our system the way we like it, and we built it in such a way that you can't change it.
She's facing, by the way, apparently as much as a decade in prison, according to something I read. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We'll continue with the news here on what's happening with one of the organizers.
And now, time for something totally different. Intercoin is a project that's working to make crypto mainstream. We use the power of smart contracts to help any community in the world launch their own cryptocurrency. Ever wanted to release your own coin or build your own app to grow your business? Intercoin's team builds apps that have reached 9 million people around the world. And now it's time to help make a real social impact in your local community. Go to intercoin.org and join the movement. That's intercoin.org.
You know, when we first started Intercoin about 3 years ago, we had a big vision to help every community in the world have access to the same tools that large states and federations do, to hold local elections on the blockchain, to have their own local currency, shop local, hire local, and help fight the forces of globalization that have decimated some of these communities.
Go to intercoin.org and join the movement.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Yesterday, Vladimir Putin recognized 2 regions of Ukraine as independent states. And he bizarrely asserted that these regions are no longer part of Ukraine and their sovereign territory.
President Biden accusing Vladimir Putin of invading Ukraine and of seeking to rewrite the map of Europe in actions that are a flagrant violation of international law. The president announced what he called the first tranche of sanctions that the US will introduce as a result of the Russians' action.
We're implementing full blocking sanctions on 2 large Russian financial institutions. We're implementing comprehensive sanctions on Russian sovereign debt. That means we've cut off Russia's government from Western financing. It can no longer raise money from the West and cannot trade in its new debt on our markets or European markets either. Starting tomorrow and continuing in the days ahead, we'll also impose sanctions on Russia's elites and their family members. They share in the corrupt gains of the Kremlin policies and should share in the pain as well.
President Biden said he hoped he was wrong, but feared that the Russian president has aspirations to unseat the government in Kiev and force Ukraine back under Russian control. He said the Kremlin had not been counting on Allied unity, a reference to a wide array of sanctions announced today on the other side of the Atlantic. Germany is freezing the Nord Stream 2 pipeline project. The UK is sanctioning 5 banks and 3 Russian oligarchs. And the European Union announced measures as well, as FSN's Rosie Burchard reports from our Brussels bureau.
The 27-member bloc has unanimously approved a package of sanctions targeting banks that finance Russian military operations and individuals involved in Russia's latest move. Foreign Affairs Chief Josep Borrell has a message for Moscow.
This package of sanctions will hurt Russia, and it will hurt a lot.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the bloc is also banning trade with the Luhansk and Donetsk regions and limiting Moscow's ability to raise capital on EU financial markets.
We will make it as difficult as possible for the Kremlin to pursue its aggressive actions.
In Moscow today, the Russian president ordered his diplomats to evacuate their embassy in Kiev and shrugged off the imposition of sanctions. FSN's Stuart Smith is in our bureau there.
But Russia is no stranger to sanctions, and the Kremlin emphasised that it would easily be able to brush off their effects with strong federal reserves in Russia's treasury. The Russian perspective is that new sanctions won't make much difference.
And other headlines today, officials in Burkina Faso say sticks of dynamite in a market caused a blast at a nearby gold mine that killed more than 60 people. And Hong Kong is instituting mandatory COVID-19 tests for 7.5 million people living in the city in a bid to curb infections. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Yeah! It is Free Talk Live, and phones are open here if you want to join the show. The number for you is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Conan.
Coming up, are there 2 different realities? Conan is going to dig into that concept in regards to how it relates to the Freedom Convoy, the protests that have been going on for weeks that sadly were broken up over the weekend. On the way, also, we got a clip from Bill Gates talking about what makes him sad.
Dr. Bill.
Oh, he's a doctor now?
He's America's doctor. Oh, well, he's the world's doctor. He's always been it. Oh, you didn't know?
No.
You didn't know?
I've never heard that.
I'm just kidding, of course. But he sure acts like he's one, and a scientist, and a virologist.
Yeah, he's just a computer programmer.
If that even.
Because some people say he stole some code.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in the day.
He's a thief.
So yeah, Ian and Conan here. And by the way, we've been telling you about how Intercoin can help any business and organization launch their own currency or raise money using their own token. And now Intercoin has launched its investor token. And you can get it on a centralized exchange called X Markets. exmarkets.com is where you can go. Use just an email address to sign up. You can keep your privacy intact. And you can then deposit dozens of different cryptocurrencies there, including Bitcoin, trade them for Tether, and then use that Tether to buy ITR, which is the Intercoin Investor Token. You can learn more about the Intercoin vision at intercoin.org and buy or sell ITR on xmarkets.com, exmarkets.com. You just might be advancing the cause of liberty around the world. So there's really not much else to say here about Tamara Litch, the judge in the case A robed woman said she found Litch, who was one of the organizers, allegedly, of the Freedom Convoy, to be guarded and, quote, almost obstructive.
Almost. So it's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
So shouldn't the penalty be a little less than, I don't know, 10 years in jail?
Well, I saw that somewhere. I feel like it was in this article, but now it's just saying that the judge is saying she could face a, quote, lengthy stay in prison if convicted. Tamara is expected back in court on March 2nd, maybe for another crack at bail, but for right now she's been denied bail, the judge saying she doesn't believe that Litch would go home. She doesn't believe she would stay home and or stop her alleged counseling. Counseling to commit mischief is what she's been charged with.
Unbelievable. By the way, Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson, under the Emergencies Act, I've asked our solicitor and our city manager, how can we keep the tow trucks and campers and the vans and everything else that we've confiscated and sell those pieces of equipment to help recoup some of the cost that our taxpayers are absorbing?
Wow.
Watson also cited losses by physical businesses as one of the reasons he would attempt to sell off impounded vehicles.
Earlier, like the businesses are going to get a piece of that.
No, they're not. Exactly. Earlier on Saturday, City Treasurer Wendy Stephenson claimed the management or the mangling that managing the protest was costing the city approximately $1 million or $785,000 per day.
Ridiculous. Like they had to do anything.
Exactly. If they hadn't done anything, still the businesses would have suffered.
Not really. The businesses that
unless they remained open.
That's it.
Unlike a couple of the businesses decided that it was super spreaders and they needed to close their doors.
Right.
Other than that, everyone and his sister's brother was making hand over foot, making big money. Where do you think these people are eating?
Exactly. I mean, there were some free food tents, but sometimes you want to sit down and eat at a restaurant or go use their bathroom or whatever, right? Like there are reasons to go to these restaurants. And there was a footage I saw out in front of two businesses in Ottawa. One was closed, the other was open, and you know what you were going to see. The open one was packed full of people.
Exactly. Every other month, these same yahoos who are complaining right now are trying to set up events like this. They're trying to get people into their cities because they claim that's where the revenue comes from.
This is must be record revenue for these businesses.
And they just shot it down. They're shooting it down as we speak. Because they've been made to look like fools. They have been called out as tyrants. They've been made to look like fools, and they can't handle it.
The judge in the case said it was disturbing that Tamara Litch didn't have a plan to get home after other organizers started getting arrested. Well, how's she supposed to get home? You froze her bank account.
Probably took her vehicle too.
Well, I don't know how she got there in the first
her dog.
place. Well, yeah, there's a good chance of that. A lot of vehicles were towed. By the way, the police put out a notice on their Twitter account saying if your vehicle was towed, you have to wait 7 days before you can even go and get it back. So a minimum 7-day impound.
Wow.
So it's not like you could just hop on down to the tow yard the same day or the next day and pay whatever arbitrary amount they want to extract from you. No, now it's that times 7.
Do you think they're even going to allow the trucks back?
Well, that's another question.
If this mayor has any right. Control, he's going to be taking them.
It's crazy.
And by the way, did you hear about the animals, the pets?
They were going to be basically stolen.
They're also impounded, and they have been threatened that if they didn't come and get them in time, I think like 8 days or so, they were going to be put down.
Right, and they said they were taking kids from people too. Like if they catch you with your kid, there was a threat by the police that if we catch you with the child, we're going to take your child, put them somewhere quote unquote safe, and you may face some sort of penalty, of like child endangerment, some sort of criminal charge.
Well, you know what? I know we're only 40 minutes into the program, but I'm going there. You guys who are upholding this, who are cracking down on these peaceful protesters, you're a bunch of Nazis.
Yeah,
literally, you are a bunch of Nazis. Papers, please. Confiscating kids.
Yeah,
horrible. You're horrible people.
Don't think it can't happen here, because it absolutely.
Like I said, we're
can.
different. We're a different breed. I don't know that it's going to be similar. I think that you look at Black Lives Matter. Look at Wall Street. A bunch of kids that were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Black Lives Matter, burning things down. We're a different breed.
Well, I think Black Lives Matter in Toronto and elsewhere.
But they're Canadian Black Lives Matter. I'm talking about Americans, man.
I don't know. I think you're giving Americans too much credit.
You're not going to be violent enough?
I don't think Americans are going to get violent. I think they're pretty much.
You take an American trucker's dog away from him and or his kid, and it's going to get violent.
All right. I guess we'll see. I mean, I don't think violence is the solution, but I do understand that people will go there when they're pushed.
It's a cycle, man, and we are at the end of the 80-year cycle. It's the tree of liberty. It's got to be fed. It is dying. It is dehydrated. It is drying up, and people don't know what to do. People are creating problems that aren't real problems when they should be focused on things like this.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see what transpires in the next 10 days, because I am skeptical that this thing's even real. This trucker
You mean like
freedom
it's going to be
convoy.
kind of like the last one in 2020? The last convoy that never really took off?
Was there one in 2020?
I don't remember what year it was. But anyway, the Aussies had a real nice one for a couple of days.
That was like a few months ago.
No, I'm talking about the one a year and a half ago.
Huh.
But I know that there was going to be an American convoy, and there was like two people. I saw one picture with two dudes who were blocking the interstate.
To me, this looks like a setup. The People's Convoy, it looks really suspicious to me. And I understand that there's what looks like a legitimate kind of organization behind it. One of them is called the American Foundation for Civil Liberties and Freedom, the AFCLF. So, I mean, I want to believe that this is real, but the fact that they want truckers to register seems really suspicious to me.
Get out of here.
No, I'm telling you, it's right on the website, thepeoplesconvoy.org. Truckers, register here.
What for?
Quote, unquote, for security and reimbursement purposes.
I'm
not sure how it's going to give you any security.
Reimbursement might be the option.
Well, that's what they're trying to get people to do. It's like, hey, you want to get a little money out of this, then you got to put your name down here, and we'll pay you. But to me, that's like, okay, here's the list of people, feds. Here's the list of Department of Transportation. Here's the list of people you need to go after. They're going to have that list. So if this is real, great. But the way it looks to me is like, oh my God, if I were a trucker going to join this thing, I sure as hell wouldn't put my name on a dotted line.
I wouldn't do it at all. But I mean, if you consider the amount of power that has been gobbled up in the last week, Canadian power from the state, I can only imagine that the American bureaucrats are slathering all over themselves, wishing they could have that same amount of control, being able to lock it down, be able to martial law, being able to control your bank account. Oh man, if anything, I think you're absolutely right. I think this might be a setup just for another power grab.
Yeah, it could be. The number here is 603-283-6160. We're definitely going to keep an eye on it, though, and you are welcome to join us. Coming up, Free Talk Live.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait a minute. Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable! Why are you running from me? Because you're scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Number, if you want to join us here, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Talking about the Freedom Convoy in Canada, where one of the organizers, has been denied bail. We'll continue to update you on that situation. Plus, coming up, are there two realities when it comes to these things? Conan wants to dig into, I don't know if it's an esoteric view. We'll see. I'm not sure where you're coming from on this, Conan, but we're going to find that out on the way here. It's Ian and Conan in the studio. And the phones are open to you. We're going to go to your phone calls and thoughts. Again, 603-283-6160. Let's talk first to Jared calling us from, I didn't get that part. Jared, where are you calling from tonight?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Welcome to Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to point out the fact that the Canadian government banned semi-automatic firearms last year, and the confiscation date is April 30th.
Hold up. They banned them last year? I thought that semi-autos were very difficult to own in Canada generally for quite a long time.
Generally, yes, but they put a full-out ban/buyback. And the buyback date or the confiscation date is April 30th of 2022.
Wow.
Wait. And how do you define semi-automatic? Because I thought all rifles were...
He said handgun. Didn't you say handgun?
No, rifles.
Oh, rifles.
I thought all rifles were semi-automatic.
Were banned in Canada.
I'm sorry. That's what I misunderstood you. I thought I heard handgun, and I was just, you didn't say it. So, yeah, it was handguns that were highly unavailable in Canada. Rifles have been available with restrictions, as I understand it. Now you're saying private ownership of any semi-automatic rifle in Canada will be illegal come this April?
Yes. And
wow.
Up until this point, they've had about a 0.2% turn-in on these weapons.
Lots of boating accidents, huh?
Yes, very many.
Wow, that's really scary.
Well,
I did not know
like
that.
I said before, New Zealand, Australia, comparing them to Canada, they also have the same problem. There's not a whole lot of guns around available to those people. And it really makes a difference. This is why it's the second freedom in this country, that the right to bear arms, and that's why it's so important. That's why it's number 2. And when you take the guns away from the people, the governments can just trample all over them.
So are there going to be guns that will still be legal after this April?
I'm not sure on that. I think maybe lever actions or bolt actions. It could be a similar thing to Australia, what they've done. I know they had a mass shooting in, gosh dang, what was the province? It was up in Nova Scotia, where the guy went around and broke into people's homes and shot them and shot 4 or 5 Mounties up there.
When was this?
And after that happened, it was in 2020.
Well, I didn't hear about this.
I forget the exact name of the location where it happened. I know it was in Nova Scotia.
And so after this, they started cracking down?
Yes. Yeah, they used this mass shooting in particular because there was a bunch of federal authorities that got shot in that instance to crack down and put in a full-on ban on semi-automatic rifles.
According to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which is like the FBI basically in Canada as I understand it, on May 1st, 2020, the Government of Canada has prohibited 9 types of firearms by make and model and their variants, and firearms with a bore of 20 millimeter or greater, and those firearms capable of discharging a projectile with a muzzle energy greater than 10,000 joules, and the upper receivers of M16, AR-10, AR-15, and M4 pattern firearms. And then they give some details about that. But there are 9 types of firearms that are now prohibited, including the M16, AR-10, AR-15 rifles, and M4 carbine, Ruger Mini-14, the M14 rifle, VZ-58, Robinson Armament XCR, CZ Scorpion EVO-3, Beretta CX-4, Sig Sauer, a couple things there, Swiss Arms, etc. So there's some very specific guns that have been prohibited, and then, as I mentioned, the anything that discharges projectiles with more than 10,000 joules of energy. An amnesty order is in effect until April 30th, 2022, to protect individuals who were in legal possession of one or more of these newly prohibited firearms or devices on the day the amendments came into force, which was May 1st of 2020, from criminal liability for unlawful possession. It also provides gun owners with the time to come into compliance with the law. Government officials are currently in the process of refining requirements and developing program design and implementations for a buyback program. Further information will be communicated in due course. Until that program is implemented, anyone who possesses a newly prohibited firearm must ensure it is securely stored in accordance with the storage requirements. These firearms cannot be legally used, sold, or imported, and can only be transported or transferred within Canada under certain conditions as provided in the amnesty, such as deactivating the firearm or returning the firearm to the residence of the lawful owner. If you relinquish a newly prohibited firearm or device before the implementation of the buyback program, you won't be eligible for compensation. So
am I understanding correctly that these weapons are going to be grandfathered in if they get them before the date?
That's what I'm not real clear on at this point.
I don't think there was a grandfather.
Because that won't get paid if they wait until after the date, but I'm not clear whether they'll be able to keep them or not, which that wouldn't make any sense. And I don't know why the politicians would even put that clause in there, because they don't want them to keep them.
Right, yeah, that's not clear to me either. It just says effective immediately, owners of newly prohibited firearms and devices are to keep them securely stored in accordance with their previous classification.
So you can't sell them, you can't buy them again, you can't even give them away. You can use it, but you
cannot use them.
But can you own them?
That's what's not clear.
Huh.
At least at my initial read through this, which, government legalese is not my specialty, so it's...
Well, regardless, it's effed up.
Yep.
It's straight screwed up, and I don't know why people are putting up with it.
Absolutely.
Jared, thanks for bringing that up to us tonight. Anything else you want to share?
No, that would be all. Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate the call tonight.
Care,
if you're
man.
up in Canada and because, again, he was just calling from Oklahoma. So if you're up there in Canada, you're a gun owner, and you have obviously availed yourself of, I presume, these various different threats by the government gang there, and you want to clue us in onto exactly how will this affect people who already have these devices. Are they going to be forced to relinquish them? It's just not clear to me at this point. But again, if you want to weigh in, the number is 603-283-6160.
By the way, I did go to good old Facebook Facebook, and checked out the People's Convoy there, the official People's Convoy. 148,000 members in less than 30 days.
Okay.
And these posts are heavily commented on. I mean, thousands of comments. They've got maps of
it's all planned out.
The routes that they're going to be taken to all merge right there at DC. This is a well-traveled group, so maybe it's legit. Maybe.
All right, a little bit more here on the firearm prohibition. According to this info, a firearm exceptions are included under the amnesty order to allow for the continued use of the newly prohibited firearms, if previously non-restricted, by individuals who hunt or trap to sustain themselves or their families, and by indigenous persons exercising Aboriginal or treaty rights to hunt. At the end of the amnesty period, all firearm owners must comply with the new law.
But again, what is the new law? If you can you keep them or not?
I don't know.
I mean, so they say you can't use them, you can't sell them, you can't give them away, you can't get any compensation from the government if you sell them back. But can you own the gun? And what does it mean to be self-sustaining?
Good question.
I'm just filling my freezer full of deer every year, but I have a grocery store right down the road. Is that going to disqualify me because I have access to a store?
Yeah, it does sound like the Australian situation where some rifles are allowed to be in the possession of farmers or whatever.
Yeah, to hunt rats,
hunt varmints, or whatever,
kangaroo or whatever they have over there.
So it does sound really, really bad, and apparently, like he said, that's coming up. That amnesty period or whatever is going to end on April 30th.
I usually comment on places like California for people to get the hell up out of there. California's a lost cause, but I can't say that about Canada. It's a beautiful country. It's got some really nice people.
Well, if they don't secede, then it's a lost cause.
But I mean, what am I going to say to these? What I'm going to say to these people who want these truckers and these gun owners? I can't say leave Canada.
I could say it. Leave Canada and
go
move
where?
to New Hampshire.
All right.
If you're a freedom-loving, libertarian, voluntarist type, get to New Hampshire and marry somebody here.
Or bring your significant other with you to New Hampshire.
Well, then it'd be harder to probably immigrate if you have a significant other. Then you have to apply for the federal government. They've got a lottery or whatever.
Canadians have to go through all that red tape too. They can't just come on over.
Yeah, it ain't easy to move to the United States.
They blend right on in. You can't tell. A boot.
They have their ways. All right, more coming up here. Hour 2's next. You can join us. It's Free Talk Live. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Yesterday, Vladimir Putin recognized 2 regions of Ukraine as independent states. And he bizarrely asserted that these regions are no longer part of Ukraine and their sovereign territory.
President Biden accusing Vladimir Putin of invading Ukraine and of seeking to rewrite the map of Europe in actions that are a flagrant violation of international law. The president announced what he called the first tranche of sanctions that the US will introduce as a result of the Russians' action.
We're implementing full blocking sanctions on 2 large Russian financial institutions. We're implementing comprehensive sanctions on Russia's sovereign debt. That means we've cut off Russia's government from Western financing. It can no longer raise money from the West and cannot trade in its new debt on our markets or European markets either. Starting tomorrow and continuing in the days ahead, we'll also impose sanctions on Russia's elites and their family members. They share in the corrupt gains of the Kremlin policies and should share in the pain as well.
President Biden said he hoped he was wrong, but feared that the Russian president has aspirations to unseat the government in Kiev and force Ukraine back under Russian control. He said the Kremlin had not been counting on Allied unity, a reference to a wide array of sanctions announced today on the other side of the Atlantic. Germany is freezing the Nord Stream 2 pipeline project. The UK is sanctioning 5 banks and 3 Russian oligarchs. And the European Union announced measures as well, as FSN's Rosie Burchard reports from our Brussels bureau.
The 27-member bloc has unanimously approved a package of sanctions targeting banks that finance Russian military operations and individuals involved in Russia's latest move. Foreign Affairs Chief Josep Borrell has a message for Moscow.
This package of sanctions will hurt Russia, and it will hurt a lot.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the bloc is also banning trade with the Luhansk and Donetsk regions and limiting Moscow's ability to raise capital on EU financial markets.
We will make it as difficult as possible for the Kremlin to pursue its aggressive actions.
In Moscow today, the Russian president ordered his diplomats to evacuate their embassy in Kiev and shrugged off the imposition of sanctions. FSN's Stuart Smith is in our bureau there.
But Russia is no stranger to sanctions, and the Kremlin emphasised that it would easily be able to brush off their effects with strong federal reserves in Russia's treasury. The Russian perspective is that new sanctions won't make much difference.
And other headlines today, officials in Burkina Faso say sticks of dynamite in a market caused a blast at a nearby gold mine that killed more than 60 people. And Hong Kong is instituting mandatory COVID-19 tests for 7.5 million people living in the city in a bid to curb infections. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. What a difference 50 years makes. It was exactly half a century ago that former President Richard Nixon made history by becoming the first American president to set foot in communist China. It was the opening of a relationship that, of course, viewed through today's prism, has become very complicated and very chilly. But in February 1972, the whole idea of a US relationship with China seemed in and of itself a distant dream. Jim Lindsay is with the U.S. Council on Foreign Relations.
Richard Nixon called it the week that changed the world, and he was right. In 1972, China was a far-off, mysterious place that was off limits to Americans. Just 7 years earlier, the Lyndon Johnson administration had actively considered bombing China to stop its nuclear weapons program. Relations continued to be so frosty that the visit of an American table tennis team to China in April 1971 was front-page news around the world. And what made the visit all the more remarkable is what you pointed out, that it was Nixon being the president to go to China. He had cut his political teeth as a staunch anti-communist. He had blasted Democrats for being soft on communists. And here he was going to China to meet Mao.
Tomorrow, we'll look at Richard Nixon's objectives in making that historic trip, beyond providing foreign policy luster to his own presidency. The main news again, President Biden has accused Russia of invading Ukraine and unveiled sanctions against Russian banks, indicating he will soon target members of the Kremlin elite. The EU agreed to sanction members of the Russian parliament who voted to back President Putin's actions. And officials in Burkina Faso say sticks of dynamite in a market caused a blast at a nearby gold mine that killed more than 60 people. There's more from us on Twitter @FeatureStory. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Mark.
Over 60% of employers are now checking online amateur pornography of potential job candidates. Is it fair to base hiring decisions on an applicant's online porn?
Now, this is not fair at all. For instance, if there's a red tube video of my girlfriend slapping me and choking me and riding me, that shouldn't be an indication that I'm going to lack leadership in a work situation.
Yeah, but Duncan, it's going to be hard to convince an employer who's masturbating to that video otherwise.
Exactly. My potential employer might see all those videos of my husband tying me up and having his way with me. And then they're going to think that I'm not going to be assertive enough for the job.
I mean, if you don't want to jeopardize the content of your porn, you can always shoot from the eyes down.
Oh, but that's not the same if you cover the eyes. That's where the innocence is.
So am I supposed to leave an orgy just because someone shows up with a camera?
No one's saying you should leave an orgy.
Right. So
it's more complicated.
So now if I go to a party, I wear something like this in case that situation comes up again.
I like that. I actually shoot my porn in sepia tone and make it look old-timey, so if people see it, they'll think it's my grandfather and not me.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio with you tonight, you've got Ian.
And Conan.
We're talking about the Freedom Convoy and the People's Convoy, as it's being called here in the United States. Is this thing for real? I gotta say, I'm a little more convinced now. Apparently, they have a Facebook page. Or a Facebook group.
There's a bunch, by the way, there's more than one. There is the Northeast route.
Oh.
And then there's the People's Convoy official, which has the majority of members. I guess you can join them all if you want.
What's the Northeast route? People coming from New England? Is that what that is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Going down. Exactly.
I see. Where do you find that one?
I just searched People's Convoy and a whole bunch of options came up, and I just went with the one with the 148,000 members, including Ted Nugent.
Wow. The Nuge. So
exactly.
Looking at this looking at some footage here that a gentleman named Chris Young has shared. Brian Brass was streaming live earlier today at Adelanto Stadium or something in California, which is where this thing is supposed to get started tomorrow. And like I said, I was skeptical based on the website. Still am skeptical it's a good idea to sign up for this thing.
Yeah, don't do that.
If you're a driver. But this appears to be real. People appear to be taking this seriously. There are a lot of supplies. So a bunch of people have brought out what appears to be a lot of foodstuffs. There's a bunch of bags of charcoals here. I mean, so these guys are prepared to set up food tents, is what it looks like. Just like what we saw in Ottawa, where there was around-the-clock food tents. Anybody that walked up could get fed. And so that appears to be what is being set up here, and they're going to load it up into at least one big rig. There's a lot of volunteer types hanging around, and this guy that's doing the video says he is amazed at the level of turnout at this particular staging area. So that is where this thing is supposed to take off from tomorrow morning. And Conan, you're saying there are other routes that are going to be joining in at some point. Obviously, if you're coming from the Northeast, it's not going to take you 10 days to get to D.C.
Right.
But the rest of the group coming from the West Coast is planning on a 10-day ride.
Yeah, they have routes set up, optimal routes where you all get in line with each other instead of just doing your own thing. So there are definitely maps out there on this page, anyways, that lay it out. I'm trying to join the Northeast People's Convoy as we speak. This page is actually asking questions, so I have to figure out their
to prove you're a real person and not a spammer.
Exactly. Well, that I'm going to more than likely support whatever they're doing.
There's one truck here that's got a huge banner that has been printed out that says People's Convoy 2022. Let's go, Brandon. We will not comply. Support America's truckers, etc. So there's definitely some pretty serious looks like support brewing for this thing already. So I'm happy to see that because for the last few weeks there's been a lot of talk as far as an American convoy, but not a lot of action. So it looks like there may actually be some real stuff happening.
Yeah, especially when you consider that a lot of municipalities and states and whatnot are actually backing off on all of the mandates and the vaccine requirements. So that the fact that this is still coming up I find it's good.
It is good.
It feels very good to me.
And don't forget, there is still the mandate on truck drivers that says that any driver that's crossing international borders in the U.S. has to have a vaccine.
Right.
So they are still being heavily regulated. And, of course, they are a heavily regulated business in general. I mean, if you're a truck driver, you know how bad the federal government is. You know how evil they are. You know that they
just paying
you.
for gas. I mean, you're one of the most hit businesses out there when it comes to government manipulation of the economy.
Yeah, and the crazy road regulations that just apply to you, and the licensure
mandates. They get it, the having to pay for a specific big rig license.
I want to go to Chris. He's calling us from Florida in the Palmetto area. You're on Free Talk Live, Chris. Chris, do we still have you? Chris going once? Chris going twice? I don't know what happened to Chris, but he's
palmettos. You know what those are?
Yeah, I used to live in Florida, man. They're like little palm trees.
They're like little shrubs. They're like palm tree shrubs, and they have the stems on those bad boys are sharper than razors.
That's true. I remember that now. They got the little spikes on the stems.
And they have spikes on the stems, and you get caught up in one of those bad boys. You out there playing in the woods and hide and seek or whatever, just running around. Those things will cut you up.
They're basically they're swamp shrubs. Basically, they exist in.
They grew as far as I knew. They grew everywhere, including cactus. By the way, I don't think that a lot of people know that.
Is that right?
That's found all over the place. But you know what? I don't miss Florida.
Me neither.
The heat, the humidity, the bugs, and now palmettos. I don't miss it.
Yeah.
New Hampshire. Come to New Hampshire, people. It's great up here.
And don't forget the palmetto bugs, which are kind of like roaches, but bigger.
Yeah, they look like they're like dinosaur roaches.
Yeah.
They had the segments.
Haven't seen one of those in a long time now that I've been up here. So there's not even roaches.
I don't even see roaches up here.
So I did look a little further here, actually, Conan, on this Royal Canadian Mounted Police on the topic of the gun seizures that are likely going to be happening there in Canada. The caller that we had in the last hour pointed out that it is going to be illegal come April 30th of this year to possess a number of different firearms, and our question was, based on the wording of this stuff, is it going to still be legal to actually own the firearms, even though you can't use them, even though you can't sell them, even though you can't take them out of their safe or whatever?
Take them out of the house.
And no, apparently you cannot own these things. According to there's actually a notice at the top of the page that I hadn't read, and the notice here says that the amnesty order protects owners who held a valid registration certificate through April 30th, 2020. Your options are to wait for further instructions on how to participate in a buyback program, have your firearm deactivated by an approved firearms business, and advise the registrar of firearms once completed, or legally export your firearm, in which case you can engage a business with a proper firearm license privilege. Once exported, you are requested to advise the registrar of firearms. Those are your three options. You cannot keep the firearm.
Canadians, send your rifles to me. PM me in the chat. I'll send you my address.
All right, so there you go. That's the latest on what's happening in old Canada. It's pretty ugly. But Conan, you wanted to get into a question of realities, differing realities when it comes to not just the truckers, but just in general. Tell me about this.
These past few years, especially the last 2 years, I have been very interested in the split, the divide that we can see taking place, not just in this country, but all of the world, where you have it's mostly a left versus right divide, but then you have your independents, your individualists on the outskirts, kind of want to get along, just do their thing and be left alone. But you have this divide, and you're hearing about it more and more. The people who have noticed it are commenting on it. They're referring to it as two alternate realities, and it's not helpful that we had 22 years ago we had The Matrix come out, and a lot of people that really hit home with a lot of people, and we're still we're using terminologies from that movie to this day. Red pill is one of the biggest.
Yeah, that's true.
And of course the left want red pill back because they say that it was all trans analogy, The Matrix, and the alt-right stole it, co-opted it from them, and they want their red pill back. But
guess what? You don't own an idea.
Yeah, well, and I'm not giving it to you anyways. But So we've talked about in the past weeks, we've talked about mass formation hypnosis or psychosis, however you want to go at it. And I think that in my book, that's probably the answer. You have 30% of the population who are absolutely hypnotized. They're asleep at the wheel, and they might even be if this is a simulation. And it is a simulation, but a simulation like The Matrix is. Like we are actually...
It's a program.
It's actually a program, and we're locked in it. We're trapped in it. That 30% of hypnotized would be, in fact, the non-player characters, the NPCs.
NPC.
And then, of course, mass formation theory says that there is also another 30% who are red pill. They're awake. They're actively... anti-woke.
It's about 30% of Americans who have not gotten a shot.
And then you have the 40% in the middle who don't have a clue. They don't watch the news. They don't think on their own. They might also be non-player characters, but they just want to be left alone a lot of the times. And they get along. They do things just to get along. And
hold that thought. We're going to continue in moments. Number 603-283-6160. You can weigh in on Free Talk Live.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phones open here if you want to join the show. The number 603-283-6160. Are there people living in two different realities? So we're going to explain that a little bit further here. It's Conan's topic tonight. Ian and Conan in the studio. The number again, 603-283-6160. Also, Bitcoin.com. The reality of Bitcoin is that it is a way out of the system, way out of the banking system.
Very hard to have your money confiscated from you if they don't have your password.
Yep. If they don't have your keys, they can't take your Bitcoins. And those are some of the basics you need to learn about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and other cryptocurrencies. And if you want to learn the basics, get on over to Bitcoin.com. Click Get Started at the top of the page, and you can do that there. There's some introductory videos. The first one is all of 3 minutes long, so you can get started over there. Just go to Bitcoin.com to do that. Again, that's Bitcoin.com. Plus, if you're not brand new to crypto, they've got a lot of resources over at Bitcoin.com, including their news site over at news.bitcoin.com, updated every single day with fresh stories and headlines and perspectives on the cryptocurrency world. That's news.bitcoin.com. Conan, let's continue with your story. Where, by the way, is this being published?
This is a Substack from the Upheaval. His name is specifically is N.S. Lyons, is written just a couple of days ago. And it's not, I don't think he's actually coming at it as two alternate realities. I'm just saying that's one of the memes that has been floating around there for the last few years at least, including the hypnosis of that is taking place and is affecting many people. And then you have things like the Milgram experiment, where you have where authority is able to manipulate people so easily and control them. Basically, what I'm trying to understand is what the hell is going on these days. Why do you have this? Why do you have this divide? And why do you have it? Why are some people so far left that they've basically delved into just lunacy, absolute lunacy? The things that are being said, the ideas that are being spread, and the things that they're willing to go through to meet their end goals is lunacy. It's absolutely upside down. What world, what reality are you living in that you think that this is possible? What these pipe dreams that you want to manipulate or to upend on all of us?
Well, I mean, we would have said that the status viewpoint, or in this case, a leftist status, because there's plenty of status on the right, but you're talking about the lefties specifically. We would have said,
well, absolutely specifically. There are nutcases on the right.
Yeah, we would have said they were lunatics before. But what makes this extra crazy is they've turned against even what their own belief systems are. Right?
They trust the science, and then the next day, the absolute literal next day, they're saying, no, we can't trust the science if it actually came from like it's the CDC or the World Health Organization that say something that is conflicted with what they just were saying and spouting 24 hours previously.
Or let's be skeptical of corporations. That's their previous message.
But not Big Pharma.
But not Big Pharma now, who they were previously skeptical of, but now it's totally fine. Let's take their drugs.
Oh, yeah. And 20 years ago, the anti-war party, not even 20 years or 10 years ago. And now every time I turn around, you've got some lefty talking about going to war. With Russia and or China and or any other country that has been on the list, whereas 5 years ago, 10 years ago, they were out in the streets protesting it or wearing their pink hats. And now what has happened? I'm not alone here. This is people. A lot of people have noticed that it's flipped on its head, and I can't understand why. And this is why I find these types of articles and or I listen to these commenters who study this, who study the sociology of what is taking place. I do believe that it's part of the cycle.
The 80-year cycle.
The 80-year cycle, the 4 generations. the weak men create hard times cycle. And we are definitely in. We had good times. You and I, growing up as youngsters, we lived in the good times. Sure. Even though our parents were probably off, working 40 hours a week and they were never around.
Yeah.
It was different for me because I grew up on a farm and my parents are always around. And if I was seen, then I was getting put to work. So it was different for me. But I mean, we had good times, but they're not there anymore. When you look at the inflation and when you look at the deficit, the debt, excuse me, well, the deficit as well. When you look at the people turning on their creating dogma where they want to go to war, but they didn't want to go to war 5 years ago because I mean, they're completely turned warmonger. The cycle. I've lost my train of thought. Let's get right into this article because this guy. He has a new theory. It's not really a new theory, but he's actually bringing up some older ideas, but he's putting them into he's chiseling them into the stone. He's making it easy to understand and easy to digest. His idea is that there are not necessarily two realities. There's only one reality, but you have two different types of people. So let's first identify and categorize two classes of people in society who we can say tend to navigate and interact with the world in fundamentally different ways. The first is a class that has been a part of human civilization for a really long time. These are the people who work primarily in the real physical world. Maybe they work directly with their hands like a carpenter or a mechanic or a farmer, or maybe they are only one step away. They own or manage a business where they organize and direct employees who work with their hands and buy or sell or move things around in the real world.
I want to say, God has blessed those people. Thank goodness for
Absolutely. All those truckers. Yeah. These are the types that he's talking about. Like a transport logistics company, maybe this class necessarily works in a physical location, or they own or operate physical assets that are central to their trade. The second class is different. It is, relatively speaking, a new civilizational innovation. This group is the thinking classes. They don't interact much with the physical world directly. They are handlers of knowledge. They work with information, which might be digital or analog, numerical or narrative. But in all cases, it exists at a level of abstraction from the real world. Manipulation and distribution of this information can influence the real world, but only through informational chains that passes directives to agents that can themselves act in the physical world. It's a bit like a software program that tends to that sends commands to a robot arm or an assembly line. To facilitate this, they build and manage abstract institutions and systems of organizational communication as means of control. Individuals in this class usually occupy middle links in these informational chains in which neither the inputs nor the outputs in their role has any direct relationship with or impact on the physical world. They are informational middlemen. This class can therefore do their job almost entirely from a laptop, by email, or a virtual Zoom meeting, and has recently realized that they don't even need to be sitting in an office cubicle while they do it.
Right.
This is, as is mentioned, it's a new phenomenon.
Sure.
This didn't exist 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And the problem with this new and let me wrap it up. For our purposes here, let's call these two classes the physicals and the virtuals.
We're going to dig deeper into this coming up here. The number is 603-283-6160. What does that mean? We'll further investigate here on Free Talk Live, and you're welcome to share your thoughts with us. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Yesterday, Vladimir Putin recognized 2 regions of Ukraine as independent states. And he bizarrely asserted that these regions are no longer part of Ukraine and their sovereign territory.
President Biden accusing Vladimir Putin of invading Ukraine and of seeking to rewrite the map of Europe in actions that are a flagrant violation of international law. The president announced what he called the first tranche of sanctions that the U.S. will introduce as a result of the Russians' action.
We're implementing full blocking sanctions on 2 large Russian financial institutions. We're implementing comprehensive sanctions on Russia's sovereign debt. That means we've cut off Russia's government from Western financing. It can no longer raise money from the West and cannot trade in its new debt on our markets or European markets either. Starting tomorrow and continuing in the days ahead, we'll also impose sanctions on Russia's elites and their family members. They share in the corrupt gains of the Kremlin policies and should share in the pain as well.
President Biden said he hoped he was wrong, but feared that the Russian president has aspirations to unseat the government in Kiev and force Ukraine back under Russian control. He said the Kremlin had not been counting on Allied unity, a reference to a wide array of sanctions announced today on the other side of the Atlantic. Germany is freezing the Nord Stream 2 pipeline project. The UK is sanctioning 5 banks and 3 Russian oligarchs. And the European Union announced measures as well, as FSN's Rosie Burchard reports from our Brussels bureau.
The 27-member bloc has unanimously approved a package of sanctions targeting banks that finance Russian military operations and individuals involved in Russia's latest move. Foreign Affairs Chief Josep Borrell has a message for Moscow.
This package of sanctions will hurt Russia, and it will hurt a lot.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the bloc is also banning trade with the Luhansk and Donetsk regions and limiting Moscow's ability to raise capital on EU financial markets.
We will make it as difficult as possible for the Kremlin to pursue its aggressive actions.
In Moscow today, the Russian president ordered his diplomats to evacuate their embassy in Kiev and shrugged off the imposition of sanctions. FSN's Stuart Smith is in our bureau there.
But Russia is no stranger to sanctions, and the Kremlin emphasised that it would easily be able to brush off their effects with strong federal reserves in Russia's treasury. The Russian perspective is that new sanctions won't make much difference.
And other headlines today, officials in Burkina Faso say sticks of dynamite in a market caused a blast at a nearby gold mine that killed more than 60 people. And Hong Kong is instituting mandatory COVID-19 tests for 7.5 million people living in the city in a bid to curb infections. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. Phones open if you want to join the show. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio here tonight, you've got Ian.
And Conan.
I want to apologize to Dan there, who was just called
Dan,
up.
call back.
I think that's him. I think we might have him back here. Dan in Michigan, who I accidentally hung up the phone. I pressed the hold button, so I don't know what the hell happened there.
Gremlins.
Some sort of quirk in the system.
Glitch.
Ian and Conan in the studio. The number 603-283-6160. We're going to talk about the physicals versus the virtuals coming up here. 2 different classes.
The
of
split.
People.
The split in this country. The main one. All you have to do is look at a map of voters and how people vote. You got the cities in this country voting one way, and you have everyone living out in the country voting another way.
But that's always been true.
But no one has ever really, they've always said it was the red versus the blue. What if it's something different?
I want to get into it coming up here, but first, let's go to it. I think is this Dan? Do we have Dan back?
Yeah, this is me.
All right, sorry about that, Dan. Calling from Michigan. What's on your mind tonight?
I'm nervous, so bear with me.
Go ahead, man. It's all
Take
good.
it easy.
All right. Like how the governments around the world are cracking down on people with, their dictations and all that crap.
Yep.
Well, I study Bible prophecy. I'm not an expert. I'm not a preacher, but it looks to me just like some interpretations I've heard with this ministry, and they seem to be dead on with the politics and religion aspect of what's happening. And like it's prophesied about an end-time world government, the European Union and the 4 other kings and the 10 horns and all that. And then it turns into a dictatorship with the Antichrist heading like the UN, so to speak. It's already heading that way. And it looks real. And then I can relate to Conan. It's like an unreal. I'm looking at it's weird from my perspective. I got to hang up. I'm super nervous.
Oh, man, don't hang up.
Dan, you're doing good, man.
You're all right.
We understand everything you said.
Oh.
Hey, listen, I'll let you think for a second. As far as Bible prophecy, you got to be real careful because they've been, you have men who have been prophesizing the end of the world since zero, since Jesus.
Yeah, right.
Every generation has claimed that the end of the world, the Antichrist was coming, at the end of the world was right around the corner, and that we're going to have the rapture and we're all going to go to heaven since Jesus. And none of them have gotten it right. You know what he said? He says none of you know the date.
Yeah.
So stop even thinking about it. Stop troubling yourself trying to figure out the date because none of you know it and none of you are ever going to know it.
Yeah, whether or not it's the Bible prophecy or not, I mean, it's bad. Whatever's going on right now is absolutely bad news.
I'm down for the freedom movement. Like, if the truckers come through Michigan, which is a lot of them probably would, I'm going to join in the line for, for till Ann Arbor or something.
Good on you.
But if I got gas, I'll go. But I'm not going to Washington or nothing.
That seems like suicide.
Yeah, whatever you do, don't go in the damn building.
I think the closest they're going to come as far as the official route that they have as far as to Michigan is going to be Indianapolis and Ohio. They're not going to be dipping up to Michigan on the official route. So you might need to travel a little bit to link up with them.
My neighbor's a trucker, and if he's going to join, I'm going to see if I can ride with him, but his truck's broke down, so I don't know if he's going to be able to.
Yeah.
Maybe by the time they get here, he'll have his truck back.
Well, you've got, let's see, it looks like about 7 days until they're going to be in your neighborhood. So there you go.
He had his truck in the shop, so maybe he will.
Dan, I just want to say thanks for the call. You did great, man. I appreciate hearing from you tonight. Let's go to William in California. You're on Free Talk Live, William.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I have a Facebook page called San Diego County Probate Court Corruption.
All right.
I think we have a crooked judge down here, Boswick. He's trying to evict me from a property in the 92117 area code that is supposed to be mine free and clear through a family trust.
Mm-hmm.
And what's his argument in the state's favor? What is their
he actually
argument?
scratched my name off an order evicting me. It's on my Facebook page, and I also have San Diego County Probate Court Corruption.com with hyphens or underscores, not spaces.
Mm-hmm. Who is evicting you? The city?
Pardon me?
Who is evicting you?
Well, no one got evicted. I've gained access and established residency on this property. You'll see my garage door if you go to the Facebook page. We got over $1 million missing from the sale of my house. We have a dead trustee paying the property taxes. The DA isn't going to do anything. And they've already got 12 felony convictions on my aunt November 30th.
Now, before you go on, it sounds like you got a lot going on here. When you say you've established residency, you've gained access. Does that mean that this was property owned by someone else and you've...
Well, right now the dead trustee is managing it.
Okay, but I'm not real clear on what that means. Was this your property, or did you move into it?
I'm supposed to inherit it free and clear.
Okay, according to this trust.
There's a cabal of lawyers that have managed to manipulate this judge. It looks like the FBI has been investigating.
And hold on, before you go on whose behalf are these lawyers operating?
On behalf of themselves. They have $1 million missing, unaccounted for. A dead trustee has paid the property taxes, and the judge isn't going to enforce any of the rules when you go down to probate court, Department 504.
Okay, but I'm still unclear. Why do these lawyers care about this? What property is it? Is it an office building? Is it a home?
Well, there's 5 properties involved to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they're single-family residences.
Okay.
That have been paid off since the 70s.
And these homes are owned by a trust.
Technically they've gone through when my father died, there's the assets are supposed to separate into a survivor's trust and an exemption trust, and I'm the sole beneficiary of the exemption trust.
Okay.
Now I have sold one house, so I have basically a war chest to fight these guys.
All right.
But it's if you go down there, you can't. I don't believe I can even find a decent lawyer in San Diego County, so I'm doing it myself. I've had some help from actually a school teacher in Oregon that does a virtual law practice, and she's
it sucks when all the attorneys seem to be allied against you. I mean, it's a good old boys club for sure. Well, the judge is just a failed attorney.
He's one of them.
Yeah.
Did you say a failed attorney?
Yeah.
I don't know how big this goes. I just want to draw attention to it. I'm going to add more stuff to my Facebook page, and I'm going to dump a lot of paperwork on all these guys and expose them because I can't believe the DA has sent the mental police here one day because I harassed the DA's office, send them AC/DC problem child, and I might bitch at every lawyer overnight except the lawyer of the office that is directly dealing with me. I do all kinds of things. We're at war here. So, but just be aware in San Diego County that there's probate court corruption, and I guess it's my calling right now.
Well, I suspect that it's true in a lot of places. I mean, you just happen to have uncovered it where you live. There's corruption all over the place. I mean, that's what happens with power is power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So it sounds like a really complicated case. You said this. The website is San Diego County Probate Court Corruption.com, all with hyphens between them. I did find this. Underscores, capital letters, and then the Facebook page, San Diego County Probate Court Corruption. All right, so people that wanted to dig a little deeper on your case can go and check that out. I wish you the best. Thank you for the call tonight, William. Sounds like a complicated case.
Yeah.
But that's what sucks, man, is when you get deep into these legal issues, it's hard to explain it to, just somebody who's a passerby on the street.
Especially when it comes to real estate, and it was from someone who had a messed up will.
Yeah, no good. We got more coming up. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. Plus, we'll get back into the 2 realities coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Yep, it's Free Talk Live. The number to join us here is 603-283-6160. I want to get deeper into Conan's topic about the physicals versus the virtuals. We'll get into that coming up here, but your calls and thoughts come first. 603-283-6160. Also want to say thanks to Ron Dinion, who is a member of our Patreon, the Free Talk Live AMPS Patreon. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. It is a way for you to help us do this thing that we do on as many radio stations as we can. We've got over 190 great radio stations across the United States that air this show at various different times throughout the week. And we can have more than that. We can have 250, 300. It is possible, but it does take some time. It does take some money. It does take some effort, and you can help us with the money part. So head over to amps.freetalklive.com. You can join like Ron did. Ron is a silver level supporter over at amps.freetalklive.com. You get some cool perks. You get some bennies. amps.freetalklive.com. To Sarah on the line in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes, I just want to mention that here in Albuquerque, we had the record-breaking pedestrian fatalities last year.
Man, you'd think the pedestrians would learn to look both ways.
Record-breaking where? Like the whole country?
No,
or just the state?
No, the state of Albuquerque. So whatever the record was.
In Sarah's world, it is. Everything revolves around Albuquerque.
All is Albuquerque now.
All the planets revolve around Albuquerque.
Well, I mean, I don't really go anywhere. I don't have much money, and I don't really want to go anywhere. Since I've gotten older, I'm 52 now, so I'm pretty much settled in. So, but if they killed 99 pedestrians, it was 10 more people on top of that. So I don't know.
So hold on.
Exactly.
What did you say? That was in 1 year?
Yeah, in 1 year, the whole state of New Mexico, we usually kill about 93, 97. So
and how much of that is Albuquerque?
Albuquerque was 47. So in other words, in this area, they actually struck, look at this, 352 pedestrians that got hurt. Out of that, 47 were killed, and I think 25 was just left to die.
So you're saying about half, you're saying 47 out of 90-some pedestrians, so about half the pedestrians in the entire state were killed in Albuquerque?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
It's the mostly highly, Bernalillo County is like the most densely populated.
Why is it that the Albuquerque pedestrians are just so much dumber than the rest of the state?
Well, you know what? It's not that they finally figured out it's the bad drivers. I mean, they make mistakes, but the drivers got used to driving in COVID virus.
See, here's the thing I just don't understand is if you're a pedestrian, you can be aware of where the cars are, and you cannot be standing in front of them generally, unless we're talking about cars that are like swinging off the road and running up on the sidewalk and killing people that way. But I'm sure you don't have the details on how these 47 people were killed, because they're all probably various different ways.
Well, most of them, they're doing speed crackdowns, they're running red lights. What it is that people got used to driving with nobody on the road, speeding, and then carrying on, doing whatever they want.
Oh, Sarah, you were calling about the exact same thing before COVID. 2, 3, 4 years ago when you were calling this show every night, complaining about the traffic situation, complaining about the danger to pedestrians, you were saying the same stuff then. So it's no different now than it ever was. I mean, if anything, maybe the pedestrians aren't paying enough attention because they got a mask on their face and it's harder for them to, they're always messing with the mask, and so they're not thinking about the cars. I don't know what the reason is, but it seems to me as a pedestrian, as somebody who has done his share of walking and crossing roads, that it's relatively easy to not get hit by a car.
This is true.
You know what? I think the red light. If you're running the red light at 50 miles per hour while you're drunk, like many of the drivers do here, and they got worse because there was nobody on the street. Well, I'm not saying this. The police department is saying this.
I don't trust the police.
Careless driving.
I don't believe what the police say. But if I'm going to cross the street at a red light or wherever, I'm going to look first, and I'm going to say, is that person speeding up?
Yes, exactly.
Or is that person actually coming to a stop?
You know what? I don't trust crosswalks.
I don't trust drivers.
Well, yeah.
Exactly, and that is my mindset when I cross anything.
Yeah.
Right, that's
careful.
true. That's why you guys are alive, and so am I, because I make sure that I don't.
So
care
you're saying the pedestrians are dumb, right? You're saying they deserve it almost.
Sarah, there's this thing that's called Darwin's Law, and this is a good thing. Maybe we didn't need these. I'm sorry that they went the way that they did, but was it 47?
47 of them.
That's 47 Neanderthals that we don't have to worry about anymore.
NPCs.
Exactly. Now this is where I would be bothered.
Thank you, Sarah, for the call.
Were these actually people crossing the road, or were they in fact like bicyclists who are actually vehicles?
Are those considered pedestrians?
I don't know. I don't know. I would like to see those numbers as well, because those are the people who get smoked.
Yeah, because they're just on the side of the road, and then somebody's not paying attention, and then they get clipped.
And also motorcyclists, they get clipped a lot too. And that because I mean, a lot of people don't realize this. A bicyclist on the road, he has the right of way. You can't speed by him at 50 miles an hour without doing it safely. And this is why you'll have some bicyclists who will actually drive right in the center of the road, so you can't get around them easily. And then some people, they hug the edge of the road, right there where the nasty cracks and potholes are, and then they end up falling.
That's hard.
It's hard
to deal with that. 2013, only 7 New Mexico cyclists were killed. So that's the latest number I could pull up here at a quick search.
Well, I know when I'm biking around town, I'm also very careful, very leery of the cars, of the crazy people out there. And I will say one thing about the city of Keene. We have an awful lot of crosswalks and rules and signs and all this nonsense. And we have I'm sure it's way down this year, the student population, but we have at least 3,000 students.
Right.
And it's always really concerned me that you have these young kids who are coming from wherever, and then they learn to traverse these crosswalks, and I think it's law here in New Hampshire that you have to stop for the pedestrian.
Correct. It
doesn't matter if you're a 3-ton rig. You have to come to a full, complete stop for some dumbass who's just it gets me.
Who's not even looking.
When you have a 8, yeah, exactly. They're buried in their damn iPhone. Yeah. They don't have any inclination of anything that's going around them, and they just barrel right on across the road.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
And it's like, man, you're going to go anywhere. You're going to go to Albuquerque for a visit to visit Sarah, and you're going to get smoked because that's not how the rest of the world operates. You can't just barrel across the road like that. It's not a safe zone. It is not a impenetrable safe zone that's going to protect you from everything and anything.
Looks like, according to the New Hampshire Injury Law blog, in 2020, 16 New Hampshire pedestrians died. And 2021, only 7.
Huh.
Well, I don't know if that was.
But no one was walking around. No one was leaving the house in 2021.
Yeah, true.
I want to see what this year's numbers are.
That's too soon. I mean, it's only February.
Well, they can do a 6-month roundup. Except we're not even finished with the second month, are we?
We're going to continue here. Conan, you were telling us about the physicals versus the virtuals.
Yeah,
is this really the divide?
Yeah, this author's not necessarily saying there are two alternate realities, but he's definitely saying there is a class divide. There are the doers, and then there are
the ones that get their hands dirty,
and then there are the thinkers. And you cannot deny it. These two types, these two classes, they vote differently. They have different ideas on how the world rotates, the world operates. Sadly, and we're seeing this. And by the way, this article is written in response to the honkening. Sadly, some of the doers, because I think that somewhere in here he adds the police into the doer list, the physical list. And it's sad, but not enough cops have quit their jobs in response to a lot of the dictatorships that are taking place.
No, they're right out there enforcing whatever the hell they're told to do.
January 6th, prime example. You have a lot of, I have no doubt, a lot of National Guard who were creating blockades who vote a certain way, but they were right out there
doing what they're
told. A lot of these mounted cops, what do they call Mounties? What do they call
Canadian
the Canadians?
Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
I'm sure that a lot of them are kind of right-wing conservative types. I think, but I might be.
Well, that doesn't mean they agree with freedom.
That's the problem. Obviously, they're not right-wing enough, but I do know that these bootlickers. They're going to be a big part of the problem when it hits the fan.
I want to talk more about it coming up here. The number is 603-283-6160. Hour number 3 is on the way, and we got plenty of time for you. You can bring up anything that is on your mind. Is this really the divide between people? Is it the people that get their hands dirty and those that don't? I don't know if I agree with that perspective.
It's got holes.
We'll talk about it. It's Free Talk Live. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone? You forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection. You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Yesterday, Vladimir Putin recognized 2 regions of Ukraine as independent states. And he bizarrely asserted that these regions are no longer part of Ukraine and their sovereign territory.
President Biden accusing Vladimir Putin of invading Ukraine and of seeking to rewrite the map of Europe in actions that are a flagrant violation of international law. The president announced what he called the first tranche of sanctions that the U.S. will introduce as a result of the Russians' action.
We're implementing full blocking sanctions on 2 large Russian financial institutions. We're implementing comprehensive sanctions on Russia's sovereign debt. That means we've cut off Russia's government from Western financing. It can no longer raise money from the West and cannot trade in its new debt on our markets or European markets either. Starting tomorrow and continuing in the days ahead, we'll also impose sanctions on Russia's elites and their family members. They share in the corrupt gains of the Kremlin policies and should share in the pain as well.
President Biden said he hoped he was wrong, but feared that the Russian president has aspirations to unseat the government in Kiev and force Ukraine back under Russian control. He said the Kremlin had not been counting on Allied unity, a reference to a wide array of sanctions announced today on the other side of the Atlantic. Germany is freezing the Nord Stream 2 pipeline project. The UK is sanctioning 5 banks and 3 Russian oligarchs. And the European Union announced measures as well, as FSN's Rosie Burchard reports from our Brussels bureau.
The 27-member bloc has unanimously approved a package of sanctions targeting banks that finance Russian military operations and individuals involved in Russia's latest move. Foreign Affairs Chief Josep Borrell has a message for Moscow.
This package of sanctions will hurt Russia, and it will hurt a lot.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the bloc is also banning trade with the Luhansk and Donetsk regions and limiting Moscow's ability to raise capital on EU financial markets.
We will make it as difficult as possible for the Kremlin to pursue its aggressive actions.
In Moscow today, the Russian president ordered his diplomats to evacuate their embassy in Kiev and shrugged off the imposition of sanctions. FSN's Stuart Smith is in our bureau there.
But Russia is no stranger to sanctions, and the Kremlin emphasized that it would easily be able to brush off their effects with strong federal reserves in Russia's treasury. The Russian perspective is that new sanctions won't make much difference.
And other headlines today, officials in Burkina Faso say sticks of dynamite in a market caused a blast at a nearby gold mine that killed more than 60 people. And Hong Kong is instituting mandatory COVID-19 tests for 7.5 million people living in the city in a bid to curb infections. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. What a difference 50 years makes. It was exactly half a century ago that former President Richard Nixon made history by becoming the first American president to set foot in communist China. It was the opening of a relationship that, of course, viewed through today's prism, has become very complicated and very chilly. But in February 1972, the whole idea of a US relationship with China seemed in and of itself himself a distant dream. Jim Lindsay is with the U.S. Council on Foreign Relations.
Richard Nixon called it the week that changed the world, and he was right. In 1972, China was a far-off, mysterious place that was off limits to Americans. Just 7 years earlier, the Lyndon Johnson administration had actively considered bombing China to stop its nuclear weapons program. Relations continued to be so frosty that the visit of an American table tennis team to China in April 1971 was front-page news around the world. And what made the visit all the more remarkable is what you pointed out, that it was Nixon being the president to go to China. He had cut his political teeth as a staunch anti-communist. He had blasted Democrats for being soft on communists. And here he was going to China to meet Mao.
Tomorrow, we'll look at Richard Nixon's objectives in making that historic trip, beyond providing foreign policy luster to his own presidency. The main news again, President Biden has accused Russia of invading Ukraine and unveiled sanctions against Russian banks, indicating he will soon target members of the Kremlin elite. The EU agreed to sanction members of the Russian parliament who voted to back President Putin's actions. And officials in Burkina Faso say sticks of dynamite in a market caused a blast at a nearby gold mine that killed more than 60 people. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Mark.
Amid the catastrophic economic crisis spurred by Tuesday's release of This Christmas, the new holiday-themed album by John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, economic experts told reporters today the Christmas CD has quickly plunged the nation into a double-dip recession.
When investors learned that one-time screen couple John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John had reunited after 35 years for an album of timeless Christmas classics, investors had no choice but to pull money from markets immediately. We were already on shaky ground with the collapse of the U.S. subprime mortgage market and the reversal financial crisis in Europe, but consumer confidence plummeted after Americans saw the new album with a picture of Travolta and Olivia Newton-John holding cups of hot cocoa. We believe that when other countries find out the album features a Christmas song that pays tribute to summer nights, we could be looking at a global contagion. This is the blackest day on Wall Street in 2 decades.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live, phones open. You can join us here, kicking off the third hour of the program. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Ian.
And Conan.
We're talking about the physicals versus the virtuals, and I want to continue that conversation on the way. We'll recap for those of you just tuning in what that means. 2 different types of people. Two
different classes of mankind.
But is it that simple? Well, we'll dig in further and find out. But first, we're going to go to your phone calls and thoughts. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. Plus, we got a clip of Bill Gates, who is admitting that he's very sad about something. We'll explain what that is.
What could make someone a humanitarian, so-called megalomaniac like Bill Gates, what could make him sad?
Yeah, we'll find out coming up here in a bit. But first, Jessica is on the line, calling us from Missouri. Jessica, you're on Free Talk Live with Ian and Conan.
Yeah, well, thank you for taking my call.
Certainly.
It's like I want to know when the American people, the electorate, essentially, the people that vote, are going to get it, that there's no real difference between the policies of the Democrats and the Republicans. With each passing administration, like Bush had the Patriot Act, which was authoritarian in nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Obama railed against it. When Obama got in, he put in Patriot 2, which was an augmentation of the first one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Trump got in, he didn't repeal anything.
Nope.
No, they all just
Obama
continue
added,
on the policies of their predecessors with very minimal changes. The power builds on power and power increases, and they all scratch each other's backs. And, you even see them when they have their inaugurations and the previous presidents are there. They're all, they're all kissing and hugging and loving on each other. I mean, it's a good old boys club, and you're not in it.
Yeah, but the thing is that with each passing administration, Doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican. It's like the size, scope, power of government gets enhanced and increased at the expense of the liberty and privacy of the citizens.
Absolutely.
Like, why don't people get it that they're going to go to the polls this year and get rid of the Democrats and put the Republicans in? The Republicans aren't going to save the day. That isn't going to happen.
Never
Why
have.
Why don't people get it? Why don't they turn into anarchists like I am? It's like it would be so much nicer that way.
Oh, you see, because the media has been saying for their whole lives that anarchists are bomb throwers and anarchism is violence, and so therefore they would never consider doing anything like that.
Yeah, don't use that in polite company. Voluntarist or free market capitalist or anything else, because the anarchist label has been smeared and been run through the mud. I don't even tell people that anymore because they have a different idea of what it means.
Yeah, I mean,
they have the idea of the lie the mainstream media morons told them. Yeah, I got that.
And that's why you're asking.
Public much either.
You're asking when these people will wake up. They're not going to. Never. Not until we as human beings evolve past all of this.
Well,
right now there are too many humans, too many people who are dependent on being ruled. They love their governments.
They love their masters.
They love their masters, and they would rather not wake up in the morning and not know what to do with themselves. They would rather have someone tell them.
Most people have a yearning to be free.
No,
I don't know.
No,
I don't think so.
That's something that doesn't exist with this government.
Jessica, that's the thing. I used to feel like that a long time ago. You know, maybe in the early years of this show, I really thought that everyone was a libertarian. They just didn't know it yet. And I've shifted in my belief on that, especially during the COVID thing. Really hammered it home for me that people actually, by and large, do want to be told what to do. Yes. They do want to have a master.
It's easier
to make them feel secure, like cattle. You know, they want to be led. They want to have somebody who they can look up to.
They want to be safe.
That's what they want to. They want to feel safe.
And guess what? Most often, cattle are very safe, right up until they get slaughtered.
We're going to turn into Soviet Russia in another couple decades.
Yeah,
I don't know decades. We're there. We're right. It's right around the corner. And meanwhile, Russia's doing great.
Well, I wouldn't say we're there yet, but the Communist Manifesto has been implemented like 8 of the 10 planks or whatever here in the U.S.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is
take
pretty
the
bad.
Kids and the kids.
This is why, Jessica, we are constantly advocating for the migration of liberty-loving people who do understand, to come to the same geographic place, because there's no way we're going to convince our neighbors that freedom works unless we have a large enough numbers. And actually, Jeremy Kaufman was making this point on Free State Live, which is the Free State Project's weekly show that they're doing on Monday nights. I was listening to it today, the archive, and he's making the point that most people just want to go along to get along. And I think you touched on this earlier in your discussion.
40%.
Yes, that's what most people do. They just want to feel like they're in the in crowd, right? They're what their views are popular. And if the views that are popular change, they'll change their views because they just want to go along to get along. So if we can create a place where liberty is heard, where liberty is common in the conversation, where there's people everywhere who are advocating for the ideas of freedom, whether it's in politics or on mainstream media or, just at their local church or wherever they hear other opinions.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Isn't New Hampshire right now somewhat authoritarian? I mean, it's more
all states are.
All states.
Regard to the COVID than Florida is. I mean,
no, not right now. No, not at all. New Hampshire's pretty laid back generally. There's a couple of towns that had a mask mandate. I think Nashville might still have one, but Keene just repealed its mandate. But there was no punishment whatsoever. The police in Keene were refusing to enforce it. So no, New Hampshire is definitely the freest state of all the states.
Yeah, you might be confusing us with one of our neighbors. Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, and New York especially. Yeah, they get the bad rap. Meanwhile,
New England sucks, except for New Hampshire.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the whole point is, because people they just want to go along to get along, they will go and adhere to whatever it is that appears to be the popular thing. And so if we can make liberty popular in one place, one little place, which is New Hampshire's a small place, then maybe we actually have a chance of getting the go-along to get-alongs on our side. And that's what it's going to take. We've got to have enough people
to get the ball rolling,
to make freedom popular.
And it only takes like between 5 and 15% to get the ball rolling, and everyone will march step. And those 30% the NPCs that I have a problem with, they'll likely move out.
A lot of them have.
Because they want their
their safety,
they want their
security.
social security. Exactly. And if they can't have it, they'll just move out. And you know what? That's all right with me.
Jessica, I would recommend.
You know what? The entitlements only entitle you to abject poverty. That's it.
Yeah, that's right.
As long as there's someone else's money, it'll work just fine. The entitlements until that money is used up, and then what are you going to do?
Here's what I'd recommend that you do, Jessica, is check out the Free State Project over at freestateproject.org. And they've got an event coming up that's sold out. That's coming up in like 2 weeks. That's called the Liberty Forum. You're not going to be able to go to that this year because it's sold out. But the Porcupine Freedom Festival is still not sold out, but it will be soon for the summertime. Come on up and meet the community of liberty-loving people. If you describe yourself as a voluntarist or an anarchist or a libertarian, there is no better place. This is the libertarian homeland, and it's crystal clear already how effective the community has been here. If you haven't looked into it, you really owe it to yourself to find out about what's going on here, because it's something special. Jessica, thanks for the call tonight. Good. I appreciate hearing from you. Yeah, I mean, if there's a better option out there, I want to hear about it, but I've been asking for that for years, and no one has provided it.
Hey, we're friends with Mark. Mark is actually out there physically looking for better options, and he's not getting anywhere.
He's trying to make one now, from what I understand.
Make an island?
Yeah, well, there's an island that exists, and from what I understand, he's planning on like building condos or something to get people to move down
Mark
there.
Edge, man, I'm telling you.
I wish him the best. I mean, I hope that it works. I'd love to hear that it's a success. We'll see.
Hey, the infrastructure's already built here.
Yeah.
Oh, and they're building like you wouldn't believe. The sad part about this argument moving here to New Hampshire is real estate sucks right now. But it sucks most places.
Yeah,
except the big nasty cities where people are fleeing like rats from sinking ships.
You can still get a mansion here for the cost of a shack in San Francisco.
Exactly.
There's more coming up here. This is Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means, stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized. which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The phone number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We were just talking with a lady that was an anarchist, self-described anarchist, and frustrated with the fact that the Republicans and Democrats never seem to figure out that they're just two sides of the same
coin.
Evil, big government, statist coin. And it doesn't seem to matter how many damn elections we go through. That just makes it crystal clear that they have the exact same policies. They've got the exact same corporate benefactors, you know, the big bankers and all these cats.
Yeah, it's just a pendulum swinging back and forth.
Right.
You know, the left get power 1 year, and 2 years later or 4 years later, goes to the other side. The right get power, and they don't get anything done.
Well, they do get things done. They take freedom away. They take freedom.
But they do it a little bit slower than, say, the Democrats would.
Well, they take different freedoms, so, you know, a little different here and there. But regardless, people never seem to figure it out. So the only solution, again, is to have people come together into one place geographically. And I mentioned the Porcupine Freedom Festival. That is coming up in the summertime. Actually, it's like just the week before summer. So the very last week, usually, of springtime. Late June is when that happens. And it is almost sold out. And normally the Porcupine Freedom Festival tickets don't even go on sale until
February.
March. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost sold out, Conan. It was a sellout event last year for the first time ever. And it's going to happen again this year.
That's a big-ass campground.
Sold out. The campground itself is already sold out. You cannot get a campsite.
Whoa. All right, so usually we are the only ones who really, porcupines are really the only ones who camp there during this week. And I think they choose a particular week during the year, which is not, you know, stamping on someone else's party.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that the entire campgrounds have been filled by porcupines. Sold out.
Yeah, sold out.
And
every RV site, every campsite, sold out.
That's music to my ears. It's sad that there's not going to be options available for the latecomers, but
sorry, no, there are still some options. I'll say this: so the tickets are not sold out; they're at over 80% sold out. So that's going to sell. It's going to be done. It's going to be sold out, and that's going to be the end of it. But for right now, you can still get a Porcupine Freedom Festival ticket. It's just that you won't be able to get a campsite for yourself. Now, if you're smart about it, you connect to the Porcupine Freedom Festival, like I think they got a Telegram chat, and there's some other resources they have.
Probably a Facebook group.
You connect in there, and you say, hey, I need a place to put up a tent. Somebody's going to step forward and say you can camp on my site.
I did that when I went. Yeah. I borrowed, a bunch of us were parked on the same little spot. I was sleeping in my truck. He was sleeping in his SUV or whatever. I think it was three of us all crammed in there, and we just slept in our vehicles.
Technically, the campsite or the campground,
they frown on it.
Yeah, technically you're not supposed to have more than like 2 tents per campsite, but they can fit more than 2 tents, and there's not much enforcement, if any, of that. They kind of look the other way on that particular rule. That's been my experience with that over the years, is they look the other way. But that said, a lot of people are just going to have to stay in a hotel somewhere else, you know, and just
any big faces, any big names are going to be at this.
Honestly, I have no idea. I think it's too early for them to even know at this point. People are just buying this thing because it is that big of an event now. Because people are figuring out that they have to vote with their feet, that they need to come check out New Hampshire because they've heard about it. They know there's something happening here. They heard the rumors that it's the #1 most free place, that there's all these activists here. But is it real?
It is. And historically, this is the only. Who was the girl called Sarah? Or Jessica.
Jessica, yeah.
Historically, the way that you get things done is you vote with your feet. Because trying to do it through bureaucracy and through all the red tape, it never works, because they have set up the rules. They own the playbook, the rule book, and you're just never going to get through it. There's not enough of you.
Check out the Porcupine Freedom Festival. There's also an event that comes after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which is way more decentralized. It's called Fork Fest, and it happens the week after. It's June 27th through July 3rd. It's the 6th annual Fork Fest. I think the Porcupine Freedom Festival is going on year 19. So Fork Fest is the newer festival. It's the little brother festival. It's smaller. There's not
the crazy little brother.
There's not as many people that attend it. It's way more laid back. And it's more of a thing where if you want something to happen, you got to be the one that creates it. It's definitely looking for the doers to come there and attend. If you just want to kick back and enjoy a camp, camping for a week with some cool people, then you can do that too. But if you want to, provide some food for the people there, I'll tell you what, people can buy your food.
Oh yeah.
And as long as it's good.
Oh yeah. This is quite a trip for me because I have things.
Yeah.
I have animals to feed. I have chickens, and I just don't like driving. But if I was to ever go again to Porkfest, I would most definitely be setting up a food vendor shop.
Oh, yeah.
I would be selling something. French fries,
There's
hot
a lot
dogs.
of hungry people, and they don't want to leave that campground.
Because I know they're hungry people.
Yeah, you keep it simple.
They're not a whole lot of store. I think there's
one
grocery
grocery
store.
You don't have to get crazy either. You can keep it simple, and people they'll sell you out.
Yeah.
So check it out, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar, June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around freedom-loving people here in the Shire. You want an excuse to come check out New Hampshire? You've been looking for a reason. These events are the best time to come out and do it. The weather's great. It's right there at the beginning of summer. It gets a little chilly in the North Country.
It's usually a little rainy.
It can be. It goes from rain to sun sometime in the same day, though. So, definitely dress for, expect it warm during the day and expect it to cool down at night. So you might want to bring a hoodie.
You might want to go sit by that big monster bonfire and the drum circle.
They have that at the Porcupine Freedom Festival, the bonfire. I would love for there to be a bonfire every night at Forkfest, but so far no one has seen fit to create that. So that hasn't happened.
To bring in the wood to burn?
Yeah, that hasn't happened. I bet if they put together a little fundraiser, they could make it happen. So, but again, it's all up to who makes the things happen at Forkfest. Go to forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Free Talk Live will be broadcasting from both the Porcupine Freedom Festival and from Forkfest. Let's talk to Joe in Michigan. Joe, you're on Free Talk Live with Ian and Conan.
Yeah, you were talking earlier about the two Americas, the 30% or whatever, like the Matrix type deal. And I believe Bill Maher has talked a little bit about this, how the new woke left. Basically lost their mind, celebrating when somebody who's unvaccinated dies online.
Sick.
And just the cruel, anytime anybody to the right of Stalin who's prominent, who's a public figure dies, they cheer it on social media. And, basically they're nihilist and narcissist, and they're not like the old liberals that we grew up with back in the day that, we just agree to disagree and that kind of thing. These people, anything, it's all about the agenda. That's all it is. That's why they can change their position on a dime, depending on who's in the White House.
Oh, yeah.
You notice there's no protest right now about police brutality because they never really cared about it.
Oh, yeah, they want the cops to crack down on the Freedom Convoy. I saw some post online, one of the social medias, I think it was Twitter, where some leftist was actually saying, well, yeah, all cops are bad, but you guys in Toronto or you guys in Ottawa, you're doing good work. And so, clearly,
when they're in charge, they're fine with it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And now they're rooting for war with Russia.
Yeah, isn't that bizarre? That the anti-war left are rooting for war?
They're not anti-war. We know that.
Used to be. Supposedly they used to be anti-war.
They weren't during the Obama administration. It was only during Bush.
And you got the Neil Youngs of the world coming out, talking about taking away speech from Joe Rogan.
Joe, do you have more to that you want to talk about? I want to make sure we get time for you. You want to hang?
Oh, that's fine. You got a break.
All right, stand by, Joe. If you want to go, that's fine. More coming up here in moments. You can bring up whatever's on your mind here. This is Free Talk Live.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. If you'd like to see real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate, results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great, homelessness and hunger to eliminate, let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Yesterday, Vladimir Putin recognized 2 regions of Ukraine as independent states. And he bizarrely asserted that these regions are no longer part of Ukraine and their sovereign territory.
President Biden accusing Vladimir Putin of invading Ukraine and of seeking to rewrite the map of Europe in actions that are a flagrant violation of international law. The president announced what he called the first tranche of sanctions that the US will introduce as a result of the Russians' action.
We're implementing full blocking sanctions on 2 large Russian financial institutions. We're implementing comprehensive sanctions on Russia's sovereign debt. That means we've cut off Russia's government from Western financing. It can no longer raise money from the West and cannot trade in its new debt on our markets or European markets either. Starting tomorrow and continuing in the days ahead, we'll also impose sanctions on Russia's elites and their family members. They share in the corrupt gains of the Kremlin policies and should share in the pain as well.
President Biden said he hoped he was wrong, but feared that the Russian president has aspirations to unseat the government in Kiev and force Ukraine back under Russian control. He said the Kremlin had not been counting on Allied unity, a reference to a wide array of sanctions announced today on the other side of the Atlantic. Germany is freezing the Nord Stream 2 pipeline project. The UK is sanctioning 5 banks and 3 Russian oligarchs. And the European Union announced measures as well, as FSN's Rosie Burchard reports from our Brussels bureau.
The 27-member bloc has unanimously approved a package of sanctions targeting banks that finance Russian military operations and individuals involved in Russia's latest move. Foreign Affairs Chief Josep Borrell has a message for Moscow.
This package of sanctions will hurt Russia, and it will hurt a lot.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the bloc is also banning trade with the Luhansk and Donetsk regions and limiting Moscow's ability to raise capital on EU financial markets.
We will make it as difficult as possible for the Kremlin to pursue its aggressive actions.
In Moscow today, the Russian president ordered his diplomats to evacuate their embassy in Kiev and shrugged off the imposition of sanctions. FSN's Stuart Smith is in our bureau there.
But Russia is no stranger to sanctions, and the Kremlin emphasised that it would easily be able to brush off their effects with strong federal reserves in Russia's treasury. The Russian perspective is that new sanctions won't make much difference.
And other headlines today, officials in Burkina Faso say sticks of dynamite in a market caused a blast at a nearby gold mine that killed more than 60 people. And Hong Kong is instituting mandatory COVID-19 tests for 7.5 million people living in the city in a bid to curb infections. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Join us here. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian
and Conan.
Looks like breaking news. I'm sorry, this isn't breaking at all. For some reason, it just popped up in my internet feed. Ron Paul apparently got blocked out of Facebook last month. I didn't know that.
He's getting blocked off of things all the time.
Yeah.
YouTube's blocking him.
Due to repeatedly going against our community standards, you are temporarily blocked.
That only makes sense. He's only saying the exact same things we say, and we get knocked off of YouTube every couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
We didn't talk a whole lot of COVID tonight, so I don't think it's going to happen. By the way, we're on YouTube.
Yeah, we're back on YouTube.
Is our Odyssey up and running?
Something's wrong with Odyssey tonight. They're doing some kind of upgrade on their live streaming system, so I think that's why we're not streaming there tonight.
If you typically... I don't like plugging YouTube and all, but Odyssey is doing some work, and if you typically watch us via Odyssey, hey, YouTube's available at the moment.
They're there for now, but they could pull us tomorrow. We're also on Twitch. We're also on DLive. We're also on VK, the Russian site.
I didn't know about that one.
We're on.
We're all over the place.
Yeah, we're on a bunch of them. I've got a list of them over at video.lrn.fm.
Hey,
if you
man,
want to see them.
Safety in numbers.
OK.ru, Africa TV. Float, the Libertarian.
Did you ever get on
media?
that Chinese outfit that you had to answer like 50 questions
I tried,
or something?
Man, they wouldn't let me in.
Ian's over here with his phone and he's translating all of the questions
from Chinese. Yeah,
and we were trying to make heads or tails because it was optional. There were it was like A through like 4 options.
I don't remember.
And we were trying to translate the options, and it was not only was it in another language, but it was different. It was another culture, and we were trying to translate this different culture, and it was very interesting.
I got through it. I mean, I nailed the questions. It was easy, but no, they wouldn't let me in. The Chinese streaming sites will not let you
talk politics,
talk about government. The way we do. You cannot be anti-state. It's in their terms of service, and so they just won't let you in.
And since we're not on their credit system, they can't give us a thumbs down.
They can't send us to the re-education camps
or the Uyghur camps.
Well, we are on a Japanese streamer called FC2 Live, so we got one viewer on FC2 Live right now. We're on Facebook still. They haven't kicked us off of Facebook yet. One of our hosts had a Facebook account still, so we linked up to our Facebook with that. And then we're also on Twitter, which no one ever watches. But we're there.
I didn't even know.
Yeah. We got 8,000 followers supposedly on Twitter, but no one ever watches our Twitter feed. So,
Well, I know all of my people, family, coworkers, friends, they'd never, because they're always talking about articles and stuff I should cover. And I'm like, why don't you just listen live? And they don't. They listen to it the next day at like a podcast.
I see.
And
well, at least they listen.
I don't know. Maybe it's something about it's a nighttime show.
Mm-hmm.
And as opposed to like a morning radio show, I used to listen to the local radio show here almost religiously, on during my drive and while at work, and I'm just wondering if it's because it's a nighttime show. There's different people are unable to and are unwilling to contribute, to participate.
Maybe. I don't know.
Huh.
Either way, there's almost wide open phone lines. We're going to go to Rudy listening to K-Talks. He's listening on the radio out there out west in Arizona. Rudy, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, guys.
Hey, what's on your mind?
Earlier, you had a lady say that there was no difference between the right and the left.
Pretty much, yeah. I agree.
Really?
Absolutely. As far as the politicians are concerned, when you get down to the individuals, I think you will find some key differences in their belief systems.
Rudy, when you consider that these people, don't you remember who was it? It was Turtleface Boy, who was high-fiving Pelosi. Was it Pelosi?
Who the hell is that? Turtleface Boy.
I can't remember. He's one of the Republican. You know what I'm talking about, Rudy?
Mitch McConnell?
Mitch McConnell, that piece of crap, that piece of filth. These people are all friends. It's like fake wrestling, man. Yeah. After the competition, they're going home and barbecuing together and drinking beers. They're buddies. It's a game. It's a play.
Yeah,
they're playing us.
You're saying that the leader of the Senate for the Republicans was congratulating, high-fiving Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House?
I'm saying they were fist bumping at this event where they're supposed to be mortal enemies, but they're not. They're on the same team.
Never
They're
have
playing
been.
the game.
First of all, they're not mortal enemies. We're all Americans.
Not at that level. Not at that level. They're supposed to be. There is supposed to be mortal enemies.
They are not like us, Rudy. They are a completely different set of people. Huh?
We're all Americans. I mean, it's just in the last 4 decades that it's become a fist fight, pretty much. I mean, it's ridiculous.
In Congress are elites. They are people who do not believe themselves to be like the rest of us. They are the World Economic Forum types, the Davos types. These are the top tier people who they don't even understand the lives that the rest of Americans lead. So yeah, they might have been born in America, but that doesn't mean they share any of the same values that the rest of Americans do. Remember all those clips of like Hillary Clinton trying to act like a human being around other people and just not even understanding? She's never even driven a car in her life.
That is every clip of Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, but she's
woman is a complete robot.
She's not unusual though. There's a bunch of people like her.
Same thing with Kamala, whatever her name is.
So Rudy, go ahead.
So you disagree with us? You think that there is a difference between the two?
I know there is.
What's that?
I mean, well, okay, as an example, in Texas with the snitch on somebody that got an abortion law, right? That's what it is. You can get $10,000 if you can rat out some woman that got an abortion. That's the law in Texas now.
Mm-hmm.
What's this? Small government Republicans, and now we've got snitches now. Hey, you can make a.
But how is that different from the Democrats in New York that'll give you $10,000 if you rat somebody out with a gun,
or who is unvaxxed in some situations?
Okay. And in Michigan, there's going to be a election for Attorney General, and there's 3 Republicans running for the position in the primary, and someone asked them about, what Griswold versus Connecticut is?
No, I don't.
It was in 1965 when it used to be that contraception was against the law, even if you were a married couple. It was the law that decriminalized birth control.
Okay.
And these 3 Republicans running for Attorney General of the state of Michigan, they all agreed that it was wrongly decided. So they want to criminalize birth control for even married people in Michigan. Once again, small government Republicans, no. In the bedroom, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I get what you're saying, man. But ultimately, the fundamentals between the Republicans and the Democrats are not very different. I mean, yeah, you can find an issue here and an issue there, but the fact is they all believe in bigger government. They all want to have new rules forced down your throat. So while the Republicans might want to crack down on abortion and your bedroom, the Democrats want to crack down on your business and your guns.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
In the last 40 years, can you name any piece of legislation that was brought up by a Republican, voted into law, that benefited the middle class or below?
Tax breaks.
You talking about at the federal level? You talking about at the state level? Because there's plenty of
federal law. Yeah,
I was going to say there's plenty of examples here in New Hampshire. I mean, the Republicans here tend to be pretty libertarian.
Congress.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to Congress because I mean they're always destroying our freedoms, and so I don't know. I think they're under the Republicans and the Democrats, they're always making government bigger. They're always ruining people's lives. They're always sending innocent people to prison. They're always murdering peaceful people.
And they're always getting in our businesses. They're always getting in our business.
Yep.
You got, as you mentioned, both authoritarian.
Yep.
Both think they know better than us, and both want to get into power so that they can rule and decree onto us.
And they've all been in power without the other party being in control. When the Republicans are in power, they don't roll the government back.
Nope.
So I appreciate your call. Thanks, Rudy. More coming up.
The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interfaith, diverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs. As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love,
and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
The Shire Free Church does not define a specific path beyond those parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way.
Love as your guide.
And liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit shiresociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live, phones open. You can join us, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Tonight, it's Ian.
And Conan.
We're going to continue with your calls and thoughts. You can join us online anytime over at freetalklive.com. We've got a social media site. It is a Mastodon-based system, which means it's open source, which means it's self-hosted.
Yep.
Means we're running the server.
Yep. Means they can't kick you off as long as you're on the server. As long as the server stays up.
If Ron Paul were on our server, he'd never be restricted.
Yep. And you can block whoever you don't like. Or just not follow them, and you won't see anything you don't like.
Exactly. Head over to social.freetalklive.com.
But you shouldn't do that. You need to know what the other bubble is saying and thinking and doing. Otherwise, I mean, you're just that. You're in a bubble, and you don't really know what's going on, except what you are allowed to see and hear. You don't know what the opposition is saying, and why are they the opposition? Why do you disagree with them so heavily? Why don't you?
Usually because they want to put me in a prison cell.
Exactly. But I mean, in the case of someone who wants to, the guy who wants to put you in a prison cell, why do they hate you so much, Ian?
Because we're a threat to the status quo here in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And they are the status quo.
I think what it really boils down to is
peaceful threat.
I think what it really boils down to is we're boat rockers.
Yeah, they don't like that.
We rock the boat and we ask questions of their reality.
Right.
We question their reality, and it hurts. It's called cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
I think it literally hurts some people. Like physically,
For sure.
They have brain pain whenever they hear something that they don't agree with and that they've decided, I don't know when, is the way.
And they want to shut it down or shut it up.
That's the first thing they'll do. They'll call into this show and they'll be like, I think you guys should be taken, and then they'll call one of their local politicians, and I think these guys should be taken
off the air.
Or they call Trudeau or whoever, anyone in power, and they're like, these guys have to be taken down because they hurt my brain.
I want to go back to your calls and thoughts. Let's talk to Jack. He's in Washington State. You're on Free Talk Live, Jack.
On that subject, if you had to rate like 1, 2, 3 to debate with, have a good, honest, fun debate with, between a Democrat, a religious person, non-binary, I don't know, or a Republican, if you had to have a debate with one of them, a religious person, a Democrat, or a Republican, 1, 2, 3, wouldn't a Democrat always fall number 3?
What do you mean by that, number 3?
All right, what is a religious person's political affiliation? Are they Democrat or Republican?
Well, I think there's at this point in society, and I think you said it best, that everything's going to hell. But I think you can still have an honest debate with a religious person.
Yes, you
can.
can.
You may not agree with them.
And
a Republican.
And most Republicans. Some of these neocons, some of these warmongers who are
not McConnell.
Not Mitch McConnell. Who's this? Who's McCain? Not her.
Not McCain. But Democrat. I mean, I lived most of my life in Portland from about 17 to about 39 or so, and you can't talk to them. You know, there's no debate there. I don't know where I'm going with this.
No, I see what you're saying. I've seen the Free Staters, for instance, invite the Democrats in New Hampshire to debates, and they will not respond. They will not debate
because they can't.
Yeah.
They don't have a real argument. All they have is dogma. They have party lines that run rule them, and that's if they
can't be questioned.
It cannot be questioned, and they can't think outside of the lines. They can't think outside of the box.
But the good news is, Conan, you're right. A lot of them are leaving. They're throwing up their hands in frustration because of the Free Staters here, the libertarians that are getting active and getting elected, and that are a huge threat to the status quo. A lot of them are just saying, you know what, it's better off if I just move to Massachusetts or Vermont, or in many cases move back to Massachusetts or Vermont. Jack, anything else you want to share?
Just the liberals happen to love RT. The irony there is so intense, but they can't see it.
You mean
RT, the channel,
Russia television?
Russia Today?
Yeah, after 4 years of Trump.
Right, because Russia was bad when Trump was in office. Is what
and
you're
that's
saying.
only one thing. Yeah. I mean, even like earlier, you guys were talking about they're like suddenly pro-war, they're suddenly pro-police. And it's just, they're pro-government.
I didn't know that they were pro-RT. I thought RT's getting blocked everywhere. And they're not very popular anymore, by the way. Not like they were, 8 years ago.
Yeah, wouldn't they be against RT now because they're in favor of war with Russia?
They should be. They're not. I've watched RT. I hate to say that, but
I don't. Why hate to say it? It's not a bad. They're not all
I
bad.
love RT. It's great programming.
That Ottawa mayor that was an article from RT. They're lambasting that mayor.
Yeah, if you want to get the critical perspective.
Irony is the only thing I'm trying to say here.
All right. Hey, Jack, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate it. Let's go to David in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live, David.
Yeah, it's David from Needles, listening to you on K-Talks in Needles, California.
No, you're David in New Mexico. What are you calling about?
I'm David the Bigot, and what happened to Scott the Bigot? Because I got some Scott the Bigot material that I'd like to share, but I haven't heard from Scott the Bigot for a long time. So, okay, well, I'm going to take his place then. Here's some facts. The Biden administration is apparently president of the United States, and in the Biden administration, here are some bigwig players of the Biden administration: Antony Blinken, Secretary of State; Wendy Sherman, Deputy Secretary of State; Merrick Garland, Attorney General; Jeffrey A. Rosen, Deputy AG; John Cohen, HHS; Jared Borenstein, White House Administration, White House Council of the Economic Advisors. These are my notes. I wrote them down as you suggested. Dr. John Brownstein, CDC; Sarah Bloom Raskin, Biden appointee to Vice Chair, Federal Reserve; John Greenblatt,
Okay, I don't think we need the whole list of the administration. So what's the point?
Well, that's not even half of the prominent people in the Biden administration. Emhoff, Vice President, married to whatever Emhoff, billionaire. These are facts. These people exist. Those are facts. What I want to ask the media, and you're the media, and K-Talks is the media, Steve Rubin that owns K-Talks is the media, and why, I just presented facts, right? Why, when somebody presents facts, does that equate to anti-Semitism?
What? I don't know.
So you called into your show and you just explained who is in control, and they said it's anti-Semitic?
These people are all Jewish.
Okay.
And they're in control. What? And it's, well, so what? They are 2.4% of the general population, but they're roughly, 80% of the Biden administration. Now, let's take Alabama.
Wasn't that the same in the Trump administration as well? His whole family?
Yes, and I can do a whole Trump thing, but you don't have time for that right now. And since people are upset about this, let's go to, for instance, Alabama or Georgia.
Are you somebody who believes that, just to clarify, are you a Jewish supremacist?
I think he's asking asking the Jewish question.
I don't know what that is.
No, I'm not. I gave you facts.
No, but I'm curious because there's some people who don't like Jewish people, but also at the same time believe that they are actually superior race because
they're God's chosen people.
Well, whatever. Anyway, as I told you before, my father was a Holocaust survivor. My daughter is Jewish. So if you want to, instead of calling me an anti-Semite,
I didn't call you that, did I? Did anyone on this show call you that?
I'm not talking about you. You is general, as in the people that are listening. You in general that would like to attack me. Instead of calling me an anti-Semite, you can call me a self-hating Jew because there's an angle for everything. Yeah.
Okay, so you are like Scott then, if that's the case, because Scott was also a self-hating Jew.
I told you up front, I am taking the place of Scott.
Yeah, you literally are. Wait, are you saying you're a bigot? Is that what you're saying?
You can call me a bigot.
Well, you just said you're taking the place of Scott the bigot.
Wait, you can't be a bigot unless. Do you hate these people?
No, I actually like them.
All right, well, you're not a bigot. You're just asking the question.
Yeah,
that ruins the whole shtick. Then
you don't think you're inferior. You don't think Jews are inferior to other people?
No, not at all.
Okay, then you're not a racist.
Well, I didn't say I was a racist. I said I was a bigot. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, the problem is that whenever a person tries to present a fact, like I presented the facts of the Biden administration, that Jews are 2.4% of the general population, but they're approximately 80% plus or minus of the Biden administration, people call you an anti-Semite or a self-hating Jew, and I want to know why that is.
Well, I don't know. We didn't call you that
because that's what they learned. That's what mainstream media told them to do.
Yeah.
It's the same thing if you believe something like, I don't know, the Earth is flat. They immediately go to tinfoil hat wearing, and then they call you a flat earther.
I mean, that one is pretty kooky. Hey, the space flight things are only $450,000. You can go and prove it to yourself now.
Great. I think I have enough Bitcoin in the bank in my wallet to do that.
You know what? Eventually, it'll be like $450. And I don't know if it's going to be 10 years or 15 years, but that price is going to come down, down, down.
Where are they going? Where are they heading? They can't get past the Van Allen radiation belt.
We'll see you tomorrow. freetalklive.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be